Okay, everybody should see the little icon. It's recording now. We can go around the little panel and introduce ourselves. Does anybody want to start? We want to do our name, our pronoun, and our art practice.
I can start, and then you, Jayla, we go from there. All right, cool. Hi, my name is Grace. Recent grad at SAIC, undergrad at SAIC. I was primarily in the photo department. I primarily do photography work. Sometimes printmaking, sometimes alternative photography work. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Yeah, that's everything about me. Jayla, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. Jayla. My pronouns are she, her, they. I am an art educator. I'm also a soap maker. I do photography. I'm also a magic practicer. Anybody else want to go next?
I can go next. So my name is Tisha, or Leticia. I'm a first generation Haitian American. I went to SAIC, I would say broadly Viscom. So I did a lot of visual communication, that's like graphic design, but I'm also an illustrator. I'm constantly fighting between the two right now. Let's see. What's the other question we had?
You answered all of it.
Oh, okay. So right now, I guess like I'm working as a designer, and I'm still trying to like figure out how to manage myself as a freelancer, because that's something that I want to get into. Like even doing commissions of small work, but also like still figuring out some stuff like how to manage my time and like pricing. So that's a big one.
Who wants to go next?
I can go next. That's okay. Hey y'all, my name is Freddie, he, him, his pronouns. I am also an SAC undergraduate, I think from class of 2018, from painting and drawing department. I'm also an illustrator, but also do graphic design, and I DJ and produce music as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Freddie.
I'll go next. I'm Lauren, but a lot of people just call me Lo. I am an incoming junior at SAC right now. I'm multidisciplinary, but I focus in photography, so that's what I do. Oh, and she, her, hers is my pronoun.
Same here.
Thank you, Lo.
My name is Jay Thompson. I use they, them, their pronouns. I graduated from Mizzou in visual arts and digital storytelling. I'm a multimedia artist. I focus in animation, motion design, and illustration. Right now I'm focusing on motion design and UX design, so yeah.
Brittany Savage, she, they, also graduated from Mizzou in 2017. I graduated with I majored in psychology and I minored in women and gender studies and art. I want to do art therapy. I'm still looking for where to study for my graduate studies. But my mediums are, I do a lot of different mediums. I paint, I make paper, a lot of fiber stuff. I like ceramics. Probably other stuff that I'm really not even thinking of right now, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Introducing yourself, guys. We have a talented bunch here. We just want to reiterate too that we just want everybody to be comfortable and for this to be like a natural dialogue. We sent out that list of questions. We want to touch on a couple of those, but if you guys have questions for each other, for us, or whatever, feel free to just like speak up. We want this to be for us to be able to connect, for us to be able to grow from this. So we're going to be very free. Grace, would you like to ask our first question?
Yeah. What are the struggles and successes that you guys face as Black artists in the community, in the art community in general?
I feel like as I'm sorry, Tisha. A Black artist, I feel like a lot of times we don't get the conversation that we want to get out of our work. I mean, that's obviously like a big thing that they're gonna have, especially when you're going through like crits and stuff like that. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Like people don't want to approach it because we're Black artists when they see a Black person within their art or they see Black topics and they don't want to focus on it because it might make them uncomfortable or just for whatever reason. or they just, for whatever reason, just aren't interested because it's not seen very often. So I definitely think that's like the biggest thing for me, at least, like the worry that I'm not going to get the recognition because people won't try. So that's like the big thing.
Any successes?
I feel like just being free with it is like a success of mine, because like I've realized over time that like I can't really think about that. So like being free with your work and just doing whatever, like everything else comes with it. So I feel like that's a big success.
Awesome, thank you.
I think the Virtue magazine is a pretty big success.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, shout out your whole. She made a whole. If anybody doesn't know, Loa's made a huge like a magazine essentially that started as a school project, but then became like actual magazine. People are like buying. After that, I can put in an email and send it out. I think that's one of your major successes. That started from a project and become like a really good thing. I'm gonna shut up now. Tisha,
there's also on the Artist Movement Instagram page. You can find it on there too. Figuring back off of that, like I have literally created pieces while in school about how nobody is talking about my work. And like when I was coming in freshman, sophomore year, it was so disappointing that I'm at this institution where we're supposed to be a community of artists, but I can talk about everybody else's work, even though I don't identify with it. But when it comes to my work, where I'm using my body to make my artwork, and it just be ignored, it was so insulting and disappointing. And I completely agree. That's a huge challenge that we face as artists, that we can't have our community talk about our work. How are we supposed to improve?
Yeah.
And I think that's also an issue because I feel like a lot of people at SAIC claim themselves to be allies, like claim themselves to be for diversity and for all like diversity and inclusion, everything that we're pushing at SAIC. But when it comes to those kind of critiques, it's like they don't even try. Like most of them are afraid to try when you could have tried and be wrong or be scolded, but they just like don't even want to entertain the conversation.
And I would even challenge that it's not just like a SAIC issue. I feel like that's across the board at like any predominant white institution. That's what we always face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something we definitely had at Mizzou. We were in two different art departments, but we both had critiques and different things. And for the digital storytelling, it was very similar. Like either it would be, and this was in Missouri, so they would be either like very like, well, I'm liberal, I'm a Democrat, so they would like try not to say anything, or they would get really angry or get really touchy about certain things. Like they would kind of start off the bat and critique very like with the attitude about it. They're like, oh, well, this isn't me, so I don't understand. Or it's like, I've had a teacher kind of dock points on a film I did because it was about like queer trans people of color. It was like about the org on campus and like, you know, them talking about what they feel pride in who they are and identities. And she told me that it wasn't palatable. And she was like, I think you need to make this more open to everyone else, to like other people so they can understand it. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so that definitely, like that space for trying to grow in a setting that's meant to be for creatives, it definitely does kind of kill that moment, because I did recede in that class of, I mean, it's hard to be present if a teacher tells you, or even like your peers tell you or silence you. So that's definitely something that is in every predominantly white institution.
This reminded me of something. I've talked to like to Jayla and Grace about this before, but I come from a similar background in, like as you, Jade, I think. So I was in my intro to visual communication class, and it's like the most basic level, like storytelling through digital form. So it was like a very simple project. You make a story using Illustrator, like just like the new software you found. And everybody made something cute, like a shape goes on a journey, something like sweet and short. And I had to sit through this one student who made a story about Black people in the 50s. And it was, not only was it very badly, like, I guess, illustrated in some way, but also it was poorly written. Like, it was perpetrating a whole bunch of stereotypes. There was like a black dots versus white dots like fight. He called someone's hair exotic. He So like all the tropes were in there. Like, and I was the only Black person in the class, as I usually am. And like even the people next to me, they're like sucking in their breath at certain points of the story, and it was all coming from a non-Black person. It was a person of color, but they weren't Black. And at the end of the presentation, everybody was just silent. And my teacher goes, "Does anybody want to critique this?" And the fact that the professor themselves didn't say anything at the story was even more infuriating. And at a certain point, I was like, okay, let me start. Like, first of all, you don't call a Black person's hair exotic under any circumstances. I was like, also, what you just did there, I personally could not have done. I was like, I'm Black. As Black as I am, I can't do this because not only like did I come from a different country, but I don't have enough context of like what it was like for African Americans in the 50s to be able to recount that story. Also, what would be the point of me doing this in a class like this? It's so commercialized. That was not the point of the whole exercise. Also, like, what kind of, like, what gives you the power to do this? Like, you can't. And he actually fought back. He was like, well, I just was trying to show how it was. I come from California. We're very diverse there. They taught me about cultural appropriation.
Okay.
And then I was like, what you just did was cultural appropriation. He was like, no, it's when you wear your hair a certain way. And I was like,
I hate here.
let's talk about the actual product. Like, let's discuss the actual physical appearance of the work. I was like, can you use the pen tool in Illustrator? He was like, no. And I was like, okay, we're done. And then like,
That's like the most basic tool. I know how to use that, and I don't know how to use Illustrator.
I was just so irritated. And that was the last presentation. The teacher didn't say anything until the very end. And then she came up to me and she was like, so, how did you feel about this? And I was like, honestly, it was uncomfortable and I shouldn't have had to do it. And then she goes, well, you should have seen what it was like before. I was just like,
wait, so your teacher saw it beforehand and still allowed the project to continue?
Exactly.
Wow, she should have been even more prepared for the conversation that was going to happen if you had eyes beforehand.
She didn't say anything. She didn't try to correct him. And she was like, some people you just can't teach. And I'm just like,
you didn't even try.
What you mean is you can't teach.
Yeah, you didn't do anything for this whole situation. And you left it up to the only Black person. And I would say, like, I was the only Black person to graduate my whole grade in BizCom.
Oh, man.
So the only Black person of their class to just explain it to them.
Yeah.
That's something I really hate. Like, why do you leave it to Black people to educate? Like, first of all, you need to educate yourself because, I mean, Google is a thing and you're not an idiot. But, like, also
to educate. We're not getting paid. I'm paying you.
Pay me. If you want me to teach you something, you're paying me. I will send you my Cash App and then I'll, but other than that, I'm not teaching you anything because it's exhausting. Like, for years you expect us to teach you everything, and especially Black women are like, first of all, we're harassed, and then we really got to teach us everything. And I just like, I'm tired of it. Like, at this point, it's like you can learn it yourself. If you really want to be an ally, you will take the time to learn it yourself. If not, like, you really don't want to learn,
right?
You want us to do for it.
Yeah, it's.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, it's just another example of how they still view Black people as like they're literal slaves. Like, they expect you to dole out that labor, whether it's emotional, whether it's educational, whether it's whatever. Honestly, any energy you have, they already expected of you, and it's wild how it manifests, like, in every way.
It's a mess.
I'm so sorry. Chris, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just bring Freddie in the conversation. Freddie, I know you it's been a while since you graduated. You can talk, if you want to talk about your experience like in SIAC or outside of SIAC. I'm really interested to see how it transcended outside of SIAC because I have yet to be out of the institution and put my artwork out there into the world yet. So I just want to hear a little bit back from that.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely had like the same experiences that y'all had. Like, either there was no conversation, or if there was a conversation, it was completely on formal elements. Like, I like the colors you're using, I like the techniques you're using, all this, but they're not getting to the subject matter. So in a way, making work outside of the institution has been I don't know, like I'm just making for myself, like whatever comes out, and then if people like it, they like it, and if they don't, they don't. But it's still like I still have people that I talk to from SEIC who are Black artists who are like, I'm thinking about this idea, I want to workshop it with you because like you know where I'm coming from. So like I have connections so I can use to, I don't know, outsource ideas. But besides that, yeah, it's like screw it.
I mean, my experience is that everybody else is as same as here is like very much like, I remember I did this project and I did like a first like nude photography of myself of my body, which I never done before. And while making that work, it was always in comparison to the white girl who's doing also nude photography in the same class. And like the teacher would lean more towards the white girl than I did. Like when I showed my work on the wall, it was just straight up silence. And then like they were just like, the usual, talk about the formal elements, talk about like the formalities, the like color, the light, the editing, how I did, but it wasn't to the core. It wasn't like one girl in the class said something about the work, but and she said like, why is no one speaking about this? And still everyone remained silent. But when I went to this other girl who was like poetically and ironically across the wall from my work, everybody had something to say about her work. Everybody had something to say about her body. Everybody had something to say how she was moving her body. But it was, for me, it was just like dead ass silent. So I think it's like always what we always have to face. I can like we always have to face comparisons and people's people's expectations, because in institutions they always expect more from us as Black people. Like I don't know about you, but like I was doing those photographs at like 4 a.m, 5 a.m to get that like sunlight from my room that was only at like sunrise. But like every time I showed it to my teacher, it was like, okay, can you do more? Can you do more? Can you do more? But when I noticed that the white counterparts in the class, it was like, oh, that's perfect. You can do this, but you really don't have to. So there's always comparisons like that. And I've also like, I was in a peer mentor class with a sophomore seminar kid. He was a Black guy, and he was a sophomore, and he was talking to me. We were talking about like stories that he could do, movies that he can produce in the future. And I was like, why don't you do like your life story, like how you grew up and how you grew up in your community. And then he said something that was really shocking to me, that really like shook me to the core. I think I told Jayla this. He said, my Black story isn't sellable. He said, my Black story is not profitable. It's not like everybody else's Black story. And I said, whoa. What do you mean? What kind of Black story? He's like, the people like Get Out or like Atlanta, like I can't make those stories because I didn't live that story. I'm like, everybody has a different Black experience. I don't know what professor told you that a certain Black experience is always profitable outside the institution world, but that's not true. Yeah. The reason why those people are successful because they tell their own Black stories and how they grew up individually. And he was just like, oh, well, like a professor like talked to me about that, but like I was just like, that's insane. Someone should not be telling you that your Black story is not profitable because you came up from what, like a middle class family, and like you didn't grow up how like I grew up. No, like I'm African, like my third generation Liberian. My parents are African, so I told my experience, definitely from your experience, how we grew up. No matter what class or how we grew up, it's a different household. So you have a different experience based off that. So it was just it was so crazy that he said like my Black story is not profitable, and it got me thinking like, what is the aesthetic of a profitable Black story? Is it the struggle?
Right.
Are we all in the streets?
I mean, there are so many mediocre white focused media things. How many times do we have to see the same rom-com, the same scary movie, the same goofy movie that follows the same format, but it's okay for us to consume that all the time?
Right. How many times I gotta see a slave movie? How many times?
Which one?
It blows my mind that is the movie that Black actors always get awards for.
Right.
None of their previous work, none of the work after that, it's always the slave movies.
Yeah, Lupita Nyong'o got like the most like the Oscar because she played a slave, and she gave like emotion.
That's the only way we can be humanized, is our suffering.
It's the only thing they say is believable. So if they get off on it.
And it also kind of reminds me of like Indigenous people too, like how they're always making the narrative where Indigenous people are in the past. Mm-hmm. Like by having those slave narratives, they're pushing us back there. I mean, 45 just said a couple weeks ago, oh, we don't remember our history, we're gonna go back to it. So it's like you're constantly trying to push Black, Indigenous people of color back to where we were, but while at the same time saying you're not racist. And it just blows my mind. And like something that I'm also thinking about, like the stories that we're sharing right now are all happening kind of in school, where there is supposed to be somebody that's an educator there. And maybe Brett and Jade is different for y'all, but at SIC, those teachers were not trained as teachers. Some of them were, but I know the focus at SIC were where they were practicing artists.
You had to seek out those professors. Like I had to seek out a lot of Black professors. I had to like hear it by ear of like people telling me you should do this Black professor. Like there was a grad student named Daryl who would like give us like a list of people of like professors like you need to take before like you graduate. Like I took Latoya's class because like he told me that I should take Latoya's class because that was the only few Black Black photographer female professors there that actually mattered and who could help my work. But outside of that, it was like they didn't know what to say.
That is a really good point that I'm going to come back to, but that wasn't the point I was trying to make. These people that are supposed to be educating us don't have the tools that they need from that institution. I remember being an RA and asking, because we were getting training on the Freedom School about how to deal with race. Freddie, Grace, and Tish and I were all RAs. We got Freedom School training about how to talk about racism, how to talk to international students. We got this training. And I remember asking, are teachers getting this? The people that have more contact with students than we do, because they see so many different people, because they're being paid to do this in a way that we're not being compensated.
Also international students too.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I remember the excuse that was told to me was that they couldn't get the teachers to come to it. And what it came down to was they weren't paying the teachers for their time. And there's a layer of issues there that like one, pay your part-time professors, but also like you should be, if you're an educator, you should try to be reducing harm. You don't go into education wanting to be a harmful person. You should be doing everything you can to make your job easier because you understand who you're talking to and you feel equipped to who you're trying to focus on. So it was just like really jarring to me to hear all of us and for y'all to be at a different school and y'all are nodding, agreeing, like y'all teachers are the same way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I would say there was no real type of training. That it was very much so a thing of like, oh, well, that's IDE's thing, inclusion, diversity, and equity. Like
that.
Yeah, we had it, but it was very recent, and they didn't really.
That's training all over the place. I'm sorry.
Where's the agenda?
That blew my mind. I didn't know everybody had to do that training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had safe space trainings, but they were like electives and no one knew about them.
Yeah,
like there'd be like a little orange, a little pink triangle that was like, oh, this teacher did safe space training in their office, but then they like call you a slur or they misgender you. It was very I don't even understand. Yeah, it was very flash.
Yeah.
I remember a Black student came up to me. I knew her because I think she was a grade below me, but she had like told me, and we were talking for a minute. And she was saying like, Grace, like, do you know one of the professors confused me for you? And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, like I told him that I was going to like out of town for like a family thing, and he saw you, and he didn't mark me down like what was it, absent or like excused. Like he marked me down as like late, and like I got like written down for that. I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, like it was like a whole thing. And I was like, I had no idea. Like, did you report it? And she's like, I wanted to, but she was like, I feel like there's no way I'll get like what justice or anything, because like it would just be a whole other step process and a long process to get actually like validated. And like I was like, no, you need to talk to someone like right now, because that's on your record as like you were missing class on purpose when you were really out of town. And
I mean, that fear is so valid though. Like that, like you don't know what that person is gonna do after you report them.
Right, because I was just like, no, that's you need to report that, because the fact that we look nothing alike, but when he saw me, and I knew this teacher too, because I also dumped his class like the first day when I saw him. I was like, fuck this dude. He was looking at me weird, and I was like, what's your problem? So when she told me that, I was like, that makes sense. that blew my mind. And like he gave her like a whack ass like, oh, I'm sorry kind of thing, not like very sincere, not very like kind of a sit down chat like, oh, I'm sorry about it.
Side story, there was one time in the beginning of the school year where Grace had just shaven her head. And I had very long braids, and obviously looking at this, you can tell we're very different. Grace is tall, I'm short and fat. Grace is slim and tall. One of Grace's residents ran into me into the elevator and said, Grace, and then just started like listing off of things, a bunch of stuff that the resident needed from Grace. And I'm like, I'm not Grace. And then I get off on Grace's floor, and Grace has a picture of her on her bulletin board. So being at a school where there was 3% Black people, you can look as different as, I don't even know, like a cat and a dog. People still will think you're the same person.
This actually, I'm sorry to keep on going on this tangent, but this reminded me of something that happened a while back, and I kind of like blocked it off my mind for a while. I'm not sure if you know about this, Freddie, but I definitely said you know.
I think I know what you're talking about, because it came back to me too, because I was like, oh shit, I forgot that happened. But keep going.
So I was a teaching assistant my sophomore year, and I was working with someone. She did not look anything like me. Another Black coworker of mine, if you guys know, Sosa, right? So I was working as a teaching assistant for middle schoolers, and one of the middle schooler, who also happens to be the daughter of the health centers, like the health disability accommodation center of her school, she came up to me during lunch, and then she looked at me and she looked at my friend, and she goes, "Are y'all sisters?" And I'm just like, "No, why?" And then she goes, "You guys look alike." And our white coworker looks at us and he looks at her. He's like, "They don't look anything alike." And like, we're talking about like the coworker I had, she was definitely of a darker complexion. She had like pink hair, glasses. We were different and all like all
your aesthetics are different.
Totally different. And then she insisted. And at a certain point, my coworker goes, "I don't like this. I'm going away now. I'm not going to stay in this situation." So she goes away, and my white coworker looks at me, and then we look at her, and she kind of, she laughs and she goes back to sit. And later on during lunch, we call her over like, "Hey, can we talk about this?" She looks at us, she looks at me, and she starts crying. Like,
Here with the fucking Becky tears. Go on.
The white pity tears. And I'm just like, "Go sit down." And then we got to the class, we talked to the teacher about this, and she's like, "Why was she crying?" I was like, "I don't know, we didn't even say anything." And so this kind of just got brushed under the rug until the last day that I was working. I got called into the administrator's office, and they're like, "Remember this incident? I wish you wouldn't have said anything because she's too young to be talking about these kind of things." And I'm sitting here like, so you're telling me that the chairman is basically complaining about the fact that his daughter came home thinking that she got called a racist when I didn't even say anything. So that tells you more about the family than me. And I'm just sitting there like, I didn't even say anything. I didn't say anything to that girl, and she knew she was wrong. So for the administration to be sitting there and chastising me over something that I didn't do was totally crazy to me.
It's so crazy how white people, you can call them anything by the book, but if you call them racist, it's like the craziest thing in their mind. Like, you call them racist and they're just like explode into tears, like just like up like this out of nowhere anger, and they have to explain themselves why they're not like racist. And it's just like, whoa, calm down. I was just correcting you on one thing. Like, you didn't have to go blow up in this whole thing.
I didn't even say anything. And her dad was upset.
Because she knew she did something wrong, so that's why she was like, "Let me just start the tears now, so you can feel sorry for me."
I mean, Brittany and I were just in a Facebook thing where this person was saying saying these outlandish things about like her not being anti-Black, but you have like 4 different Black people going, "No, what you're doing is extremely anti-Black," and she would just reply, "If you say so." I am saying so. Like, 4 different Black people, and now you got other people coming in. You got other POCs telling you, "No, you being real anti-Black right now. You need to take a step back and read what you're writing and read what we're writing, and listen. Though we're giving you this time and labor right now for free, you need to go ahead and take that L and sit down.
It's like people are way too entitled. They don't want to just admit that they're wrong. Like you claim like I'm not racist, I'm not anti-black, I'm not this and that and the third, but you don't want to listen to the voice that's coming from the person that you're saying that you don't hate. Like the more important voice is me. Like if I'm telling you you're saying something that's offensive to me, what right do you have to say that that's not true? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like you're not.
You don't get to dictate if you're not being harmful. If the person you're harming is telling you that they've been harmed by you, you fucked up.
Especially those people claim that they're allies. Like, first of all, boo, like if you claim that you're an ally, you need to fucking listen to me. Like, period. You need to listen, or listen to other Black people too, because you can't just be like, oh, I'm an ally. Like, look at I have like Black Lives Matter on like my Instagram post.
I have a black square.
Yeah, I posted the black square. Like I
have a safety pin.
Right.
The safety pin.
That safety pin bullshit was crazy. I was in a class talking about like the women's march and how fucked up it was, and people did not get like how fucked up it was. I'm like, no, that whole march was fucked up. That march was not inclusion at all. And I pulled up that photo of like, like it's a famous photo from the march. It's like the three women in like the pussy hats and like the Black woman in like the lower corner. So don't forget white women voted for Trump, and like they're all Instagramming. That's the best photo to represent the march. And my teacher was like, I'm so glad you brought up that photo. I was like, great, because that just talks about like feminism and inclusivity right now, because there's this whole divide. Like, yeah, these like white women in like the hats and like they're posting pictures on Instagram, and like that woman with that like sign, I love that photo. I look back at that photo all the time.
You can even take it back to Rosie Riveter or whatever her name was.
Right. Like, girl. But like, I know we're talking about a lot of like struggles, but like, does anybody have like any successes they want to talk about? Because though there are like some bad things that come with like being an artist in this community, a Black artist in this community, there are some things that are light. Like for me, what I found was really great was like a community of Black artists. Like this right now, like finding those group of people that you can relate to and talk to about in rant sometimes about like shit that you're going through, and they can be relatable about it. And then we kind of formed that bond together, and we stick together at these institutions or even outside these institutions. Like, I think that's like probably one of the best successes that I've ever had being a Black artist, is just finding that community who gets you more than anything else. Like, I know Lo, you can really attest to this, because you have a really core group of a community where you're at in your grade.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's like my biggest success. I feel, because I came into school like on my own. Like I was like, I'm fine. Like I'm at art school. This is where I want to be. I'm making my art. Like I'm fine with not having friends. I'm just here. Like I'm chilling. I'm cool. And like I just found my friends one by one, and it just made my experience like so much better. And like I really do appreciate having that, because if I didn't, I feel like I would have such a different experience. Like I would feel like I would be like a single art student. Like I don't know, I feel like if I didn't have those people right by my side, it would be so much more hard for me. And like even after I found them, like I was like, I'm making it like a mission to find those Black professors too. Like my schedule is 90% Black. Well, it was 90% Black professors last semester, because I couldn't handle it. I was sick of it. By my sophomore year, I was sick of it. So I just think that that's definitely like my biggest success, finding people that look like me that do what I do.
Well, yeah, I think that's like the main thing. Like Black people will stick together. If I see you, like, I mean, that's how. If I instantly see you down the hall, I'm gonna introduce myself, be like, hey, how are you? Like, just because like you need that validation of being seen and being known that we're all in this together, and like I see what you're going through, like let me help you. I think that's like the most validating thing about being a Black artist, like right now, and like in any institution, it's just like finding a community. Like, I think, well, I tell everybody this, like even like lower classmen, like if you have any questions, please come to me. Like I want to be there for you, so we know like you still have that community even outside of school, because I think it's like always good to like support your people. But
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I'll say we've talked about this before, but it's honestly something that we're low-key kind of envious of your generation, or like your graduating class, is that when Jayla and I came into the school, like you could count on your hand how many Black people there were in 162. And it was kind of lonely because like, you knew there was like 2 people in Jones, 1 person in Buckingham. And it's really lonely. And then I remember this one day I don't know who I was with, but like in the elevator, and I look around and I'm just like, we're all Black. Like the whole elevator.
I remember that. There's a picture out there somewhere. We were like, all the Black people at SAC sit in the elevator.
Oh my God.
Probably still count about maybe on two sets of hands, maybe like how many people
This time around, yes.
That's definitely more than I had like anticipated. Like I was like, oh, I'm probably gonna see like maybe like 4, but like I feel like bringing the connection like with the 6 people that I like really communicate with all the time, like that made such a huge difference, because I feel like some people may not have stayed, you know, like even like people that I don't talk to, like there might be people that decide like I don't want to stay because like I don't have anybody that looks like me, like this is difficult, like I don't feel like, you know, it's just a lot of different scenarios, and like having people there just helps.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jayla.
I completely agree with that. Like, I know people in Tish and I's class that did not graduate because they didn't feel supported at our institution. And it makes me sad to think about, like, the successes that we're talking about right now are coming from the struggle. I am never going to forget one of my first experiences at SAAC. I walked into the financial aid office, and there was a Black student worker. She looked around and was like, okay, this doesn't happen a lot where we're the only Black people and there's no white people around. Here's my phone number. Here's my name. If you need anything, there's not a lot of us here. So if you need something, let me know. And it was like such a good experience to be like, oh, I'm going to have somebody to look out. And my dad was there. He was like, oh, I'm so glad somebody's going to look out for my daughter. But thinking back, like the fact that the senior is sitting here like, okay, hold on. All the white people are going. Let me help you out. Like, and also sorry if you hear background noise. I have a really naughty cat.
But Jake, Brittany, do you have like similar experiences at your institution?
So yeah, similar experiences for sure. But I can definitely say that one success that like partway from the struggle, but partway just like us actually like trying to make space for ourselves and the community was when we were able to host the third annual QDI PLC conference on our campus. And we ended up hosting an art gallery there with people who were either unable to make it to the conference, but still fell within the community, or people that attended the conference, just putting together their artwork and allowing them the space to like discuss their artwork amongst other people at the gallery. And we also had an open mic there. So that was really nice. Still within the same theme though of like bringing together communities and just really networking there and just building those relationships that would continue on past that time.
Trauma bonding. There's a lot of trauma bonding with a lot of the students that were like, there's a lot of trauma bonding with the students that did stay, because when, you know, we had the protest going on campus, a lot of students left. So a lot of people that we did start to know, it was a drop. It was definitely a drop in my classes of kids, but the ones who did stay, there was very much a community that was created. And also I feel like going to a predominantly white institution, it made me kind of go more inwards in terms of like really wanting to learn more about my heritage, and like really like it was like it strengthened my love of my heritage too, because I feel like going to predominantly white institutions, it's like just for a warning, I've never like been into a predominantly white space before, so when I came there it was a culture shock. So I feel like going to that space and then seeing like what the standard was, I guess, because like predominantly well-off white people, it is a very stark difference of how they think. And it's Missouri, they want things to go a certain way, and they're very weird if it doesn't go the way they want it to in social aspects. So I feel like I definitely had a bittersweet time too when I did find other Black people, because it was like, you know, you don't see that many. And it was like that moment of, okay, we have to really know what's going on with each other. Like, how are you doing? Are you okay? I actually had a bittersweet moment with the art teacher. There was only 2 Black women art teachers in the department, in all scopes of the visual arts studies department. And one of them was leaving because she couldn't handle it. She was done. She checked out. And the last one, who was still there, I had a conversation with her where she felt like she was compelled to stay because she wanted to show other Black students that there was someone there for them. But, you know, and that was a really hard conversation to have, because it's like she was risking her sanity, really, like, for the sake of seeing a few students, you know, a year. And it did kind of hurt. It really did, because it's like she really seemed like she was really stuck. And it was like I couldn't tell her, like, I don't know if there's right or wrong with that. It was just kind of like the reality of that is like, you know, I'm happy you feel like you're there for people, and like it is good to see her, because when I first saw her, it did feel good to see her. But it's like, but knowing that you're miserable and that you're really not enjoying your time in this space, and people are constantly being racist as fuck to you in your own department, where do you go, you know? So I would definitely say bittersweet overall, with finding community and learning more about myself. Yeah.
Right. I think Freddie, like, you were like one of the first Black RAs I found on campus. And if y'all don't know Freddie's like really positive and really nice. So it's like, when you find him, he's like always have a smile on his face.
Oh, actually, I just talked to one of your residents, Sid, and she says hi. She was like, Freddie's was the sweetest person ever.
But I think so when I think about like foreign community, I always think about like how you always present yourself, Freddie. You always present yourself with such a positive attitude and always open arms, which is always a good thing for like when we see underclassmen and upperclassmen. It's always that like validation between 2 Black students at institutions like that. And like you had put on that show with Darius. Do you want to talk about that for a minute? Because that was like to me that was a huge success. Like it was like,
yeah, definitely, like what y'all are saying. I definitely think one of the successes of being a Black artist is like creating that space for us, which also like kind of going to like the last prompt, and like I'll get to the DBS show, but also I feel like as Black artists, like I feel not that we have like responsibility, but we have to do something like when it comes to the art world, since it is like white artists and like white art history is kind of the gatekeeper of the art world, which is all kind of like rooted in white supremacy. Like we shouldn't need to, as Black artists, appeal to the white masses with our artwork for validation. Like it's valid already. I feel like as long as the Black community agrees that it's valid, then like that's all it needs. But I don't know. I feel like there's something that like we need to do either as like an interjection or something to like make a space for us like in the art world, or completely disregard it and just like, you know, do what we do to be successful. But I did like the Don't Be Scared show because it like wanted to highlight that not all Black people have the same Black experience, which like people have confused me and Darius for each other, people have confused me and Rod for each other, and I'm like, we're just the all Black RAs, like we're completely different, like we all look different. So all of that, and we all have different stories, which was super important, and it was also to show work that people can talk about where they don't get that in critiques. But it's a lot. I don't know. And also I feel like when it comes to like me being positive and optimistic, I feel like that's me just trying to guard myself, because like the world is pretty shit and has always been pretty shit, but if you can find like something good in it, then it like makes it, I don't know, a little better.
I'm honestly really happy that you told me that, because like obviously I'm at SASC at a completely different time that you were, so I didn't know about that show. But I was feeling a little discouraged lately because while I was at SAC last semester, I had applied to have a show because I hadn't seen any Black students with a show, and I wanted to have one where like we get to show who we are, like within like basically what I put in my magazine, but as a show. Which is just like showing us like who we are, where we come from, the things that we hold dear to us, and just everything. Like I wanted Black artists to have that space, and I had applied for it. I was a little discouraged because I'm already at an institution, and I was like, I'm also a sophomore. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna see if I can do this, but we're gonna, you know. And like I surprisingly got to the second step of like having a meeting with them to like discuss like what did I want to put in the show, and I was like, oh wow, like I actually have like a really good chance of getting this chance to do this. And like all of a sudden it was like, well, you all should focus on like making your work more finished for the show. And it was like, you all seemed so, and I mean like it really sucks because like they seemed so excited about it. They were so interested in it, and they wanted to like see it happen. They were like, oh wow, like you're like really working towards getting Black artists out there, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh well, you need to focus on it, and then we'll try again next semester. And I'm like, it's just getting that big space is like super important, and I feel like I could have been worked with in that case. If that was your only reason that I didn't get it, I feel like I could have been worked with, because I don't see Black artists with like huge spaces like that. I haven't seen it since I've been there. I feel like I don't see very many Black artists displayed, period, while I'm there. And I wanted that chance because I'm like, I honestly just want to take it over, even if it's for like 2 weeks. But like I couldn't even get that chance, and that's like really discouraging. But I'm so happy that you told me that you made it happen, because like I'm determined to make it happen before I graduate, and we're gonna see it.
Yeah, I hope that you do make it happen. Like after this, I can give you my contact information if you want to like talk about like the process. But actually, we went outside of SCIC to make this happen. We were in Logan Square at the Hairpin Arts Center. But that to say, it's not impossible to make it happen at SCIC. But also, like if they're giving you hella pushback, like you don't need them to be successful.
I wanted to fight. I knew I had that option, but I wanted to fight to get us in there, because this is an institution that I only see white artists, and like I see other people of color get like small chances, and it's like we get that 1% chance, and why? Like you don't have a valid reason. Like if you really thought, because you seemed so interested, and that's if you really thought like, oh, I don't think your work is finished enough, even though you didn't say that to me before. I feel like you could have worked with me, even if you didn't give it to me. Then I feel like you could have worked with me and like been like, oh, you can, let's figure out what we can do about it. But no.
Did they forget that they were an educational space?
I don't.
Like if they think it's not finished, like okay, then help me. Like
also, fuck them for that, because I have been in so many critiques where people have showed unfinished fucking work and they still get passable for that bullshit that they turned in. I saw someone turn in some shit with some crayon and some fucking construction paper. So the fact that they told you that bullshit blows my mind, because I've literally been in classes where like someone said, I did not finish this. This is what I have. And then the teacher's like, oh, okay, credit.
Okay, I'm about to name drop Jason Donda. This is a good name drop. It's a good one.
Oh, he's one of the best professors there. He's a white professor. He's one of the best.
He's a white Canadian. I took a couple classes with this man. So he knew me and I knew him. There was a one point where a student, this was one of our big critiques towards the end of the year. He came in with an hourglass and flipped it over and left it on a white podium. That was not even his podium. He borrowed it from another piece. Oh. The whole time we're looking at it, I'm looking at Jason like,
I did that with Jason when I was
who's gonna do it?
Who's gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? And he was like, it's me. So I'm like, I don't understand if this is a performance or this is you just being lazy. And Jason had to walk out the room because he started laughing. But
literally one of the best professors.
If you want to talk about unfinished work, all you got to do is walk into a freshman core class.
Not even freshman, girl. It can be from like freshman to senior. I've seen senior capstone when they turn in bullshit, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
And are you like, well, I've seen some of your work now from this show, and just being in your place, thinking about like how unfinished work can still start a conversation, and you were denied that space, pisses me the fuck off. Mm-hmm. There are famous people that have sketches that are unfinished, and they still talk about that. That's the point of an in-progress critique.
Yeah.
To provide that feedback and exposure so that you can get better. And for them to sit there, and if I'm thinking of the gallery, those are student-run galleries.
You work at that gallery, Lou, don't you? Exactly.
I was going to be quiet, but yeah. I was going to shut up. Yeah.
Damn, so they're not even like unfamiliar with you, like you're just coming in for the first time. Like you're like,
oh, no, they
been working there.
And honestly, I mean, if I could be completely honest, I'm not going to say that I hate working there, because that's not the case. I don't hate it. I don't really interact with people very often, to be honest, in the first place, because like it's a gallery. I sit there by myself, and maybe I speak to somebody if a piece doesn't work. But like, it seems like I just recently I had a black gallery assistant, lead gallery assistant, the one that was basically the boss of everything that I spoke to. So she was the first black person that I had worked with there that like I actually interacted with because I had to, and I love her. She's super sweet, and that was like the nice experience that I had. But like besides that, I almost felt like uncomfortable working with them because it was like I don't interact with them very often, but like when I did interact with people, it was like I'm super friendly when I meet people because like I'm awkward period, but I'm like super nice to people because like what is there to be mean for? But like it always seems like they're just like oh hi, like they like very like passive. I don't really want to speak to you. It is what it is, and like they have very frequent like get-togethers with everybody, and I dread going like every time, and I shouldn't dread going. And the reason why I dread going is because it seems like nobody wants to speak to me, and I don't speak to, and like I always make an excuse to leave early because it's like I speak to one of the like heads of the department, well the head of the gallery department or whatever, and like she's very nice, even though I don't get communication with her very often either, but that's a different situation. But I still like everybody else, it just seems like, oh well, she's there. And I just stay to myself because I isolate myself in the first place, but like nobody even attempts. I like talk to somebody for like 2 seconds and they like answer me, leave me alone. And I'm like, okay, fine. But like I don't know, it's just that speaking of that situation, like thinking of that, it just makes me realize like how much people feel so uncomfortable speaking to me. Like how unfamiliar are you with Black people? Like I'm not scary. Like I don't understand. Like I'm not begging anybody to speak to me, but like give me the same respect that I give you. Like is that so hard to ask? I don't understand. And I try not to complain about it because I feel like I shouldn't, but also at the same time I'm sick of it. At this point I don't really care. Like what are you gonna do? Because like if you really want to say something we can have that conversation, but like that's about it.
When I say I have the exact same experience, sorry to Jade and Brady, we're talking about too much SAIC, but we can just talk about like group dynamics in like institutions like this, because when I was an RA, ooh, you saw my face when I was in that job.
Which story are you gonna tell?
Hold on. But Lo saw me. I was so fucking done by the time Lo came in. I was lost already.
Done. When I say I went to the same experience of like, literally, I'm just like a number to them to like represent like a number of people that they're like in that, or Freddie, in that residence life group, just a number. Like, oh, we have this many Black people. Okay, check. Like they did not really concern me of my opinion or of my standing there at all. Like, there's so many instances where like I had to be told aside from my boss saying, so I've noticed you've been very like aggressive toward this one white RA. He didn't say white, but I knew exactly who the fuck he was talking about, and I knew she was white.
No, she was a
yeah, you want to talk about that? And I said, not really, because my facial expressions are my facial expressions. I don't need to be friends. Like, they walk into that job and say, you don't have to be friends with everybody. So if I have some bullshit with that girl, that's on the side, that's personal. But I will come to that job and I will be professional. You can bet your ass. But if I don't want to associate myself with her, we don't need to have the conversation. But they forced me to have this conversation with this girl. They forced me to talk about what kind of problems we had. At the end of the day, nothing was resolved. She was still like in her white privilege bullshit. And I was still very much like, okay, so you're crazy. Got it. Awesome.
That has me thinking about like, we are numbers to these white institutions. And I'm thinking about Lowe's situation, and I'm thinking about like all the stuff that SAIC, that all these other companies are coming out with, like, oh, we're looking for like Black lead officers or like heads of our departments. Like SAIC is like, we're all about equity and stuff like that. Like, how do we feel about like, I personally, I'm okay with capitalizing on that. They're gonna try to be like a diversity hire. That doesn't mean that like, for me, I'm being hired because I'm Black. I'm being hired because you're lacking this thing, and I'm exactly what you need. And I'm just like curious, like what everybody else thinks about like what companies and organizations are doing right now, where they're saying these things. Sometimes they put the actions behind it too, but like, what is the like general consensus about what's going on? If that makes sense.
Yeah, if I can share real quick, because I was feeling it definitely with you, Lo, and with Grace, what you were saying too. I feel like unless you're able to, like you were saying, either like commodify or like exploit a Black narrative, or like unless the Black person is like successful in somewhere where you can market them, then like, you know, then you're able to serve a purpose. But otherwise, yeah, I feel like it's just to show face or just to boost your numbers for demographics or anything like that. And like, I love these people at SAIC, like Nick Cage or like Roshayla or like Denenge. I love them to death, but they've been treated dirty by the institution, or they've just been used like, oh, look at the amazing work that they're doing and things like that. And it's not like kind of two-part. And I feel like that's at other white institutions as well. Like, unless you're able to like market or, you know, live off of your POC faculty, then, you know.
Right. You know how many times we market off how Nick Cage goes to teaches at the school every fucking time? He's on the fucking magazine of SIC every single goddamn time. And because he's the most famous artist there. And so is Latoya Ruby Frazier. Latoya is, I don't know if y'all know Latoya's work. She's phenomenal. I always advocate for her. She's, my God, she's amazing. She won MacArthur. She has got many, like, she has, like, her resume is stacked. That's all I gotta say. And they know, many times they market off her for Black students, for Black photography students coming to school. I was like, oh, do you know Latoya? Da, 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 da. They're always, like, representation and showing face, like Freddie has said, like, always. And I love them to death. I love Denenge, I love Latoya, I love Roshayla, I never met Nick Cage, but I love his work. But they're always that kind of like face for the school of like, oh, we don't have any Black artists, but here are 4 Black artists ready to hear right now. And it's fucked up because that shouldn't be your demographic. You should actually give them, you should pay them more what you're trying to do, because they are actually putting in the work. They're actually giving us big feedback. And like, sorry, I have a lot to say. And like, I feel like for us, especially like in that job that you have, Lo, I don't know about this, but I feel like in the RA job that they always expect the Black RAs to do the most work and like get the most done and like do everything, but like don't expect that from the same as like the white counterparts. Like, you many times I fell off behind once and I got like a whole meeting with my boss, like sit down meeting of like, this is what you did wrong, Grace, but this is what you can do better in the future. And it was just so fucked up because I was just like, okay, but so-and-so has not had that meeting and she literally comes into work barely any times. Like, I'm here at 10 a.m. exactly, but the one time I was late, like, or a couple times I was late because I'm a fucking student. No, fuck out of here, that bullshit.
All right, I want to expand to that because that's a conversation that I've been having a lot with my coworkers. I work in corporate, and we actually had very uncomfortable.
Name drop your job. Dude.
Don't do that. If she don't want to do that, she's not gonna name drop.
Okay.
Oh my God, I'm not gonna name drop.
It's very good
idea. There's too much at risk right now. So honestly, like I graduated last year, and my job, I would say, is the first really predominantly white institution I've ever been in. Because even at SAIC, I'll say like we're predominantly white, but there's also a large amount of international students. So that was kind of like unusual in that sense for the school. But I still found my community there, right? My job is predominantly white, and the most diverse team is the creative team. Now, the thing that comes with that is the fact that we had a conversation. We were talking about how like the leadership is trying to include more diverse people into the team and everything. And I noticed that over the last few months, more than half of the new hires have been people of color, which is great, but they're all going towards the same creative department. And the thing about that is, so like someone was posting about how we're donating like $1 million towards like diversity and inclusion. We're doing great. And I was like, yeah, but you guys don't have any Black leadership. Like there are 0 people, like barely any people of color in leadership. Like everybody is white. Like if I get out of the creative department, everyone is white. And I was listening to a talk about this, And people expect that just hiring junior creatives or like junior people of color is going to fix the issue, but it's not really, because like after a few years, you're going to be like, well, there's nobody that I can look up to, nobody in a higher up position. I don't see myself staying in that company for too long. So you're going to look for somewhere else that actually has the creative, like, or like the people of color that are in higher up positions. Because it's like, if you really want to start fixing the problem, you have to hire people of color in higher paid position. Like, let's have a Black provost. Let's have a colored people step down so that we could actually see change in like within the structure of our institution. Because like the problem we have is like we have like white people making decisions for us. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, how are you supposed to fix the community and like actually implement solutions for us when the people that are making the decisions are all white? So they need to not only hire people of color in a higher up positions, but also try to like grow the people that are like in the junior, or like even the students, like actually like teach them how to be successful and how to actually get to those positions. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like even outside of that, like a lot of times institutions hire people that are seen as more palatable to white audiences, and they're sometimes not even actually there for the communities themselves. But even that, like extending on to what you were saying, just no real upward movement for them once they do come in. And it's just like they're stuck in this position of like, you are here to be the representation with no real path towards improvement for yourself or actually for the institution. It's like, yeah, we'll use you for our pamphlets and, you know, to bring people in, but we're not actually going to implement anything that's going to actually make it easier for you to be here or for those students to be here once we've trapped them with you. And then that, honestly, that realization later on that you were basically used as bait if you are with the community just takes a toll on you from then on out. And then you either make your exit or even sometimes you're like ostracized and pushed out. Like as soon as you do like put up somewhat of a fuss or be like, hey, you know, this isn't really what I felt like I was brought here for or what I was promised, like as faculty, or even as a student. And they're just kind of like, well, this is just what it is. So, you know, but be happy you're here, right? Like you're able to build a community.
Can I just interject? I was the poster child for the school. Like, I'm still in pamphlets. I'm still in presentations.
Well, I mean, do we remember our friend Raven that did not live in the dorms, but they were putting her in all the housing pamphlets? Like, this girl did not live in the dorms until her, like, sophomore, junior year. And they had her on pamphlets freshman year. I'm also thinking about when you're talking about what's better for a white audience, we know what that looks like. We took promotional photos for our RA stuff. I was not in any of those photos. I was there the entire time. I was not in any of those photos. I will be next to Raven, and the crop would cut off. It would be my shoulder.
Wow.
So like I hear you when you're saying these things, and I'm also thinking about it's not enough to just hire these people, to hire these POCs, these Black people. It's not enough. You need to be able to make sure that you're dismantling these biases that are inherent in your company. If you're not also making your staff go to training, you're not doing anything but creating more harm.
And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, teacher.
I was going to say, here's the other thing that's been really talked about within my organization is that they'll say, oh, well, we have an employee referral system, but half the time, the Black people specifically that are referred to those positions don't actually get promoted. And the reasoning is usually, oh, well, they're not qualified enough for this. But it's like, with this idea of being qualified, you have to assume that they had the same opportunities and they had the same education as everybody else, which is not the case. So you're not even giving them a chance to actually grow into their position and be good at what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. But you just reminded me too, when I was thinking of applying to colleges, I was looking at two different schools in Chicago, Columbia and SAIC. And there's this whole thing at SAIC where it's like Columbia is the bad school. It's lesser. A part of that is because it's commercial and SAIC is a little bit more conceptual. But it's also because Columbia, they had it, I don't know if it's changed, but around the time I was applying for their photo department, they had on there, it's okay if you don't have a portfolio, because we know that not everybody was able to have access to a camera or these facilities in their high school experience. We want you to be able to come here and explore that. And that is part of the reason why at this predominantly white institution, that school is frowned upon, because they let everybody in. But they're letting people explore and have those opportunities. When SAC, you have to have a portfolio, you have to have your artist statement, which are all good things to have. But coming from a high school, you don't know what people are dealing with. Glo, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, they just use this as a quick fix most of the time. Like, it's like, oh yeah, no, we have a diverse team, but it's like a couple Black people that you wouldn't see any other time unless they purposely show them, because they're so uncomfortable with willingly putting us in these higher positions.
And it's like, do those positions have power, or are we just a council that we can give our opinion? And the decision-making power is still with you.
You many times I got emails being sent out. I was like, you should come to this promotional thing. We're taking pictures at this location. And they would specifically say my name. Say, Grace, are you busy this day?
Or
Can you
pictures? Sorry, Grace, go ahead.
And I was just like, what? And then like our boss, our boss, I don't know if I'm gonna say her name, but our boss, gotta get professional. Our boss would be like, see me down the hallway, be like, Grace, you see that email? And I was like, yeah. But I have to go work on some school stuff because this is my only day off from the job that you are pressuring me to do 24/7. The only day I have off. It's like, you can't just step off for like 5 minutes. I'm like, it's midterms week and I do photo and I'm in the furthest building from where I live. So no, I can't.
And I mean, I quit being an RA my junior year because that job was not accommodating to my student life. And even after I quit, certain res life and student affair offices were still pulling me for events because it would be like, oh, we're welcoming new students. You're fat, Black, and queer. You hit a lot of buzzwords. And like, they wouldn't phrase it like that, but you knew that was why if they have to pull from somebody that quit, you know that they're hurting in that representation. I did it because I need the money, but I'm gonna get my coin.
Well, like we were talking about successes, and I was really thinking about that, and I feel like one of the biggest successes that most of us have accomplished so far, but honestly, like, you don't realize how big of a success it is until you do it. It's like graduating from art school, like, and being Black. Like, those two together don't always happen. I was thinking about it. I was like, for someone to even be able to decide, that a Black person to be able to decide they're going to art school, it's like going into the unknown. Like, I went in for art therapy actually, and then because I was able to convince my parents that it was close to being a doctor, like, however that worked, right?
Immigrant life, that immigrant parent life.
Immigrant parent life. And then I was like, yeah, like, they're licensed, sometimes they become licensed therapists and everything. And I got in and I was like, I don't want to do this. And I switched to graphic design my sophomore year, and my parents were still pressuring me to drop out of school and do marketing or something. So like, for you to even be able to like actually follow your gut and do something that is not traditionally done by everyone around you, it's a big feat. Like, to be able to graduate from art school, because like a lot of people have not been able to, not only is it hard financially, emotionally, like basically all of the odds are stacked against you. Like, I realized that when my senior year, I hadn't slept for 4 days, and like I was presenting my final, and I was talking to one of my classmates, and I was like, yeah, I haven't been able to sleep just to finish this project. And then they told me that they never had an all-nighter at SAC. And it just blew my mind. I was like, I have worked 4 jobs at the same time just to be able to afford just going to the school. Like, anybody who knew me during senior year knew that I wasn't exactly present because I was so focused on like graduating and actually having a good portfolio once I leave that I didn't have time to live. I was just surviving 24/7. And once I did, like, my parents were like, oh, well, are you going to go to grad school now? And I'm just like, but y'all didn't even want me to like go to school in the first place.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is like,
yeah, that is a Sorry, Jayla.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, that is a huge success. I came to like moment when I was like going for a walk. I'm like, yeah, that is a big success. Because when you go to school, and I don't know, I'm from an immigrant parents, like it's just like a thing you have to do. Like you got to go to school. Like I come from an African household, so like my parents were like supportive of me going to an arts institution and pursuing art and becoming a photographer. They didn't know I was like I didn't know what I was getting into when I was doing fine art, because I was just gonna like, I'm gonna be a fashion photographer, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But I slowly swerved and just did like conceptual and like portrait work. And it was going to school was just like, yeah, you go to school. So when I graduated, people were making a big thing about it. I was like, yeah, I kind of had no choice. I didn't know that was a big thing I accomplished. But when I was taking a walk the other day, I was like, yeah, we're very few numbers, black students numbers at SAIC or any white art institution. So the fact that that one of us graduates.
Oh no, she's cutting off.
Grace lives in the backwoods.
When I saw like you, Freddie, and Jayla, sorry, did that freeze?
Yeah, and I was explaining that your Wi-Fi is bad.
Hello. Sorry, I live in the backwoods. My Wi-Fi is not that great.
That's literally what I said.
Oh, did I say? Did you say what I was supposed to say? Yeah. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm with the corn folk. But literally, like, but yeah, going off that, like, yeah, when one of us succeeds, we all kind of feel that, like, all that, like, success, like that success.
Yeah.
And like, also just thinking about like, for me, like, I've dealt with depression since like middle school. There was a time period where I didn't think I was going to make it to 16, and to be able to like, I'm an educator. I teach. Like, I made it past that point is a big success for me that like I didn't even think about until Tish brought it up. Like, I didn't think I was going to make it to 16, and I'm 23. And it's like that is huge. And like, I know that we all like deal with like different levels of like mental health, like, because we're human. And so like that we're all still here. Lo, you're still in school, but you're still doing it. You got a whole ass magazine. Like, yep. We're all doing different things, but we're still doing it in the middle of a pandemic and so much civil unrest. We're still here.
Love community. Also, if I can just like shout out Lo for a second, she made a whole fucking like course out of a basketball.
Yes, that's wild. It looks so good.
And you like did a handbag to it, like that is a huge thing. And I was like immensely proud when I saw that. I was like, holy fuck! And you inspire. But we also lean in each other when it comes to community. We inspire one another.
Dude,
what? Yeah.
I almost want to scream every time I see Lo do something, because like I saw her when she came in as a freshman. I was her first art. I was like, that's our resident.
Yeah, what I love too about like the community that I've started to build, and everybody here is a part of my community. Lo, I haven't met you in person yet, but you're part of my community now. We're like, the joy that we can get from each other when we succeed is like something that I live on. Like, when I text Jade or Brett, like, oh, y'all, I did this thing. They're like, oh, girl, you did. Like, the joy that we can get from each other as Black people, I think is really unique to us, other people. And, like, it makes me so proud to be Black. It makes me so proud to be who I am. Right. And I'm appreciative of y'all, and that we can have this conversation.
Like, when Freddie sent like your emails back saying, I'm really proud of what y'all do. Like,
oh no, Grace.
Grace, you broke throughout that whole time.
Did I? I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi is so bad. But when Freddie would send like those emails and messages back, like, I'm proud of what the work y'all doing, like y'all doing the damn thing out here. Like, that was really, like, I really took that to heart, because I really appreciate that. It's that validation that we would seek in these institutions, but we feel better when we have that validation between all of us.
Mm.
And now if I can just jump into another question we had, I know we're getting tangent, but this is great. This is a really good conversation. How do you feel when people label you as a Black artist as opposed to just an artist? Because I know this is like a thing that happens, like a recent like contemporary Black artist wrote like an article for Hyperallergenic about it, how she envisions a world where there's no like Black artist narrative, like there's no title Black artist, just we're all artists. So I just want to hear everybody's take based on that.
That's been a super hard question for me, like for ever since I heard it, who knows when. But like, I'm always torn about it because it's like being called a Black artist. In my mind, part of my mind is like, wow, that's like super important to like give me that, because like I'm proud to be Black. Yeah, I'm Black. I'm a Black artist, and I'm here, and I'm making stuff, and like I'm really proud to be a part of that community. But then also a part of me is like, why do I have to be labeled a Black artist? Because it's like, why can't I just be an artist? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if I'm not, then like I'm just thrown into this whitewashing of everything and nobody really knows. But then it's just, I don't know. It's like really hard for me to like pinpoint like my right answer on how I feel about that. Cause like, even when people ask me like, what do I do? I'm like, oh, I'm an artist. Most of the time I'm like, I'm an artist. Cause you see, I'm Black. I don't really need to, put emphasis on the fact that I'm Black. Like, you see that I'm an artist and that's it. But like when I'm writing something, giving it to somebody, like in an artist statement or whatever, I'm like, I'm a Black female artist, because I feel like that's important for you to know. Like, I'm a Black female artist and I'm doing this, and this is my topic, and this is why I do it. So I don't even know. Like, it's like, sometimes it's appropriate for me, sometimes it's like, why do you need to say that? But I don't know. I've always been curious about what other people thought about that.
I think I'm along the same lines because like, and I guess in my field, it's much more clinical in some way, and it's very like commercialized. So it's a bit harder for me to like kind of like include my identity into my work, because it's about like presentation, it's about design, composition. But I feel like when I present myself like to my portfolio or something, or even my LinkedIn bio, you'll see like, I'll be like, I'm a first generation Haitian American designer, which I feel like personally it's important for me to say that, because it is a pretty big deal. And just like in terms of like representation, because like I remember the way that I even got into design is that I saw this person on one of the presentations at school, and I saw her name. Well, names speak for themselves sometimes, but I looked her up and she was a Haitian designer. Like, she branded herself as such. And I was like, oh my God, there's representation. There's representation. I was like, I want to be like them. So I feel like it sets you apart for the, like, in terms of like, it makes you easier to reach for your own people. But like, I do see how that can like set you back and like work against you. But then again, it's like, I guess if you're looking at it from like a recruiting standpoint, it's like, if people are not willing to take in like a Black artist or like a Black designer, then like you probably don't want to be working with them in the first place.
That's true.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way as both of you do. When y'all presented that question in the email, I don't have a clear feeling on it. Yeah, I feel very similar, because it's like, on one hand, you have to make a distinction because of how intrinsically white the art world is, that it's, you see the same, I mean, it'll be the same white shit all the time. So it's like, sometimes it does have to help you to set it apart. But then within the same, I'm gonna also talk for film too, with like animation, they start to pigeonhole you. Like, they kind of start to expect certain topics for Black artists and like creatives to create or to host in their pieces. And it's a hard combination between of representation and like, okay, now they're starting to kind of do a typecast situation here, where it's like, okay, they're only picking you when they want to hear your voice on these certain things. I feel like in a perfect world, we could just say artists, but it's like, we're just in a society where it's overly white supremacist, where it's just like, there's no way of separating that. Because I feel like Lo said, like, it would be whitewashing as well, like denying your heritage. I go back and forth on that a lot, of like representation, but it's like, okay, but are they gonna keep you in this one box of what kind of narrative they want, a particular kind of Black narrative they want? Yeah, I don't think it's very, I feel like it goes back and forth between being intersectional too. So the answer is, I don't know.
It's such a layered thing, like all of these things that we're talking about. And I think about how, like, when we were sending out emails, when people were applying the show, we didn't initially have the question, are you a Black artist? in our email reply. But then we realized we were getting a lot of white artists that were making work about like a Black narrative. And it's like something about this piece isn't right. And then we would include that question and we're like, so you're basically blackfishing. Like, and it's like, it's so sad that we have to have that as a necessary part, but like we have to do it. I'm also thinking about like my own art practice and like how I make it a point to mention each of my identities when I talk about myself. And I think about how for so long it took me so long to reconcile with every part of my identity, because every part of my identity is something that like is should shat upon like society. So like me saying those things is for me. It's for people that look like me, that act like me, to be like, hey, I am there, kind of like what you guys were all saying, that like is representation. But it's also very affirming for me to be like, yes, I am fat. Yes, I am queer. Yes, I am Black. Yes, I am XYZ. But you do get pigeonholed. Like when Grace and I were writing the statement for the show, Grace was very adamant about putting that piece in there about pigeonholed, being pigeonholed into making these types of artwork. And it's something that happens no matter what we're doing. And it's like, how do we combat that? Like, it's layered. It's a layered issue.
Yeah, I've made it a point to really just, distinctly say like white artists as well, because at the end of the day, all of our identities are going to shape our art. Like we might not necessarily be making things that are about like a Black struggle or like the typical stereotypical, like Black experience in art. But it is still Black art. And so I don't know. I feel like I don't ever want to not be labeled a Black artist, because that's who I am. Pretty much along the lines of what you were saying, Jayla, as far as like I'm all of my identities and all of my identities shape who I am and what I am creating. And I mean, yeah, even along the lines of representation, like I want other people to see that like, yeah, it's possible to do these things. You don't have to be pigeonholed. You don't have to just stick to one medium or one theme or one idea of what it means to be this, because just because you have that identity, just because you have that label, doesn't mean it always has to be acted out in the same way, or it doesn't mean it has to be represented in the same way all the time. But I mean, going back to the whole thing about saying like, yes, this is a white artist, because even like y'all were saying, like you can tell, like you see it at the end of the day, like no matter if they are trying to, blackfish, like, and use our experiences, like it doesn't sit right when you actually see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling like everything that y'all are saying. I don't know. I like being called a Black artist, but also at the same time, yeah, I feel like there is that stigma that y'all were talking about, that like when you're introduced as a Black artist, people have a certain concept in mind of what your art is going to be like, which I feel like is inherently political, or it's like related to the Black experience, which is all right, well and good, but that's not like what my practice is all about. So then I feel like when people do see my work, since it features like a lot of animals or like deals a lot with music, then they're like, oh, it's not like real Black art, or like you're not doing what I want you to do. But also at the same time, I feel like with being a Black artist, I have an additional pressure to like always be on, if I'm freelancing, if I'm doing DJ gigs, if I'm like working with clients, anything like that, because I feel like if I slip up, then I don't, or like I have a harder time with maybe getting that call back and then furthering my career. Where I feel like, I mean, I don't know if white artists go through that, but I don't know. I feel like I go through that especially. So yeah, that's big.
I feel you. I feel what everybody's saying. Like I love being called a Black artist because that's who I am. I'm a Black person. I make art, but like to have to feel like to be on all the time, to make Black art, to constantly like do something that has to do with a Black body is a lot of pressure, because when you're in an institution, like when you turn in something to school that's not about race or about like your ethnicity or about whatever, they're confused and they're like, well, why'd you stop? Like, and they want to get in like this whole like therapeutic thing, like, why did you stop doing this? Like, no, I didn't stop it right there. I'm not feeling no type of way about my culture, about who I am. I know who I am. I just didn't want to make what you want me to make. And they get so like weird and flustered about it. So like Tisha, I'm third generation Liberian American, and a lot of my work is about like Liberian culture, like my family, because I grew up in a Liberian household. And like it's always like a thing in like my classes or my critiques of like, well, how do I know these people are Liberian? How do I know that they're African? Like, and it's like, do I have to like make it like known to you that they are African? Like, do I have to like put on the whole regalia, the whole cloth, the whole thing, and like make it well known? Cause like there's like, cause like, they're always saying like, Grace, you talk about this in your work all the time, but I'm just not seeing it. And I have to kind of sit with myself, be like, well, do I want you to see it? And like, if you don't see it, like, I think that's on you clearly, because they're portraits of like elderly Black generational African women in my family. And though you may not get that, that might be fine. I'm trying to show a whole other audience that like you're represented, because there's a lot of West African artists for sure, but there's not a lot of like Liberian contemporary artists out there right now in the world. And I identify as Liberian because I want to make sure that people know that they see me and that there's a place for everybody. So yeah, I'm always in the constant struggle trying to find out like, yeah, I'm a Black artist, but like I shouldn't be put on to always make this work for your satisfaction.
Like that's the question that I had when you were talking. Who are we making work for? And is it okay if the majority of the audience does not get it? Like
Yeah.
I feel like I had that discussion in school, but because I was the only Black POC there, it didn't go anywhere. Go ahead, Britt.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's just so frustrating, because it's just that whole expectation of you to make it so easily digestible for them, and well, how do I know this? Well, go look it up. Like, this should give you the gateway to be able to, make more of those connections and learn more about the culture and learn more about the history. Like, no, I'm not just gonna cater my piece to educating you about my entire culture. Like, no, this is for my sake, for my purpose of my outlet and my creativity. It's not always centered around educating you about what exactly it is to be of this thing. Yeah.
I really appreciate what you said, Grace, because that's actually something that I thought about in my art practice. Like, remember how I was saying, like, design is, like, very clinical. It's all about principles and everything. I did have someone ask me a question, like, well, why don't you make art about being Black? And, like, at the time, I was still, like, kind of, like, trying to figure out, like, what my art practice was and like where I was headed. And I did end up making a book about like living in Haiti, like post like the earthquake. And it was something that was very, very personal to me. And like I remember in critique, thank you. I felt so, I don't even know how to describe it. It just felt unnatural for me to present this book. And like even the critique that I got back from it was like very uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, like I remember like thinking like, wow, I shouldn't have put that out, because I felt like at that point I was making work for other people as opposed to myself. It felt a bit performative, and it didn't feel really genuine when I thought back to it. Whereas like I showed the book to my family afterwards and they like burst into tears, because like it was such a personal piece of my identity that I felt like it shouldn't have been displayed at that point because they asked me to.
Yeah, you kind of bare your soul to like your audience, and then like when you get like when you do all the hard work, and because like girl, you were working, like you put a lot of like, she did the damn thing, and you show up to the critique like sweaty and like, oh, this is what I did, and people are just kind of staring around like, okay, and they kind of move on. It's like very like, I did the thing that you told me you wanted me to do, but then I just get this like feedback like, fuck out of here.
Wait, you know what's actually crazy about that? When I presented the book, the teacher cried, but the reason why she cried, she basically told me afterwards, she was like, Tisha, your ideas are so great, but your craftsmanship lacks. And I was like, I stayed up 3 days to finish this book. I did not leave Columbus, like the building. Like, this is everything I put into that book. I was so tired when I presented that thing. And I had to redo it again just to present a better craftsmanship. I was just over it at that point.
What makes me sad is that I also have a story similar to that. And I'm like, why do we have
similar stories?
Yeah, like we keep sharing these tragic experiences, and then it's like, oh, I had the same thing in a different department. Like I was in photo for the majority of my time there, but these same conversations are happening, and it's so sad that we have to make a community for ourselves, because the institutions we were at the world we live in cannot carve a space out for us. They actively are putting us in a hole that we are constantly trying to bring ourselves out of, and they're literally shoving the dirt back in there.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, we can put our all into something, and then somebody will say something disrespectful. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. You're not the only one, because I've been mad about it since first semester sophomore year when it happened. But I've been told I spent like so long on a piece, and like obviously when you're spending hours on something, maybe towards the end you like start getting like burnt out, but like you don't have time to like fully do it like you want to. So like obviously you're aware that it's like not where you want it to be, but like this is supposed to be a critique. This is, as they've stated, these aren't supposed to be finished works. This is supposed to help you make it better, right? Okay, so if I take it there, and I'm very much aware, I'm tired. You know, I'm doing something for you because you want me to have it done right now, and I'm tired. I know it's not where it should be, but I know that it's not trash. So I've had somebody tell me, well, they point out the exact thing that I already know. And instead of being like, do you know that it's like this? Like, how do you think that you can like progress on this? Or I suggest this because I'm a teacher. They say, I assume that you don't have the skills to do this. I have not stepped foot in that department ever again in my life. I don't ever want to, and that really sucks. But like, I just, to this day, I can't believe that somebody has really sat there in my face and said, well, I'm assuming that you don't have the skill to do it, so that's why. Like, no exaggeration, that's literally how she said it. And I can't. And I don't know, I didn't know that other people were just having this same experience, because even after that, like, it was like a really aggressive back and forth between me and her. There was only 2 Black people in that class, and the other one was my friend. So like, I mean, I don't want to say that it's because I'm Black, but also at the same time, knowing that other people are having the same experience makes me think otherwise. Because like, I haven't done anything. I literally bust my ass in this class. Like, yeah. What do you, how dare you? You know, like, I don't get it.
Right, like not even to get the benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm tired. I have 5, 6 other classes that I got to do work for. I'm working outside of that. Like, yeah, to completely just to credit like your craft like that.
Go ahead. And to also just think about, like, I don't think it applies just to school, art school in particular. Any artwork that is made in this world can be called unfinished. And it can be something that needs improvement. That's why you have series of paintings. You did this one thing with this, and then you do the next thing with this from what you learned from that experience. Like, for people to sit there and point out, oh, technically this isn't right, but you ignore the concept and the meat of the piece is outrageous. And it's lazy. That's what it is. It's lazy.
Like, I'm fine with you telling me, like, oh, you can improve with this. Like, here's how. Or, like, just telling me, you know, just work on that. Like, I'm fine with that. That's why I'm here. But don't tell me that I don't have the skill for it. How does that help me? And you weren't even paying attention to what I made. You're paying attention to that one little spot that I'm already aware of. So how does that help me in the first place?
Right.
It's so crazy. I remember the worst class I ever had at SAIC was my intermediate graphic design class, and that shit stressed me out so bad. The teacher was downright a tyrant, and I think I got 3 compliments that whole class because I counted them. And at the end of the class, I passed out from stress. The last day of critique, I remember I sat down I was standing in front of my piece, and I looked at it and I realized that the corner of the paper was bent, and I had a panic attack. Like, I had to like go to the back of the classroom, sit down. I passed out for a few seconds. I woke up again, and then I just like followed through my critique. I realized it was so freaking stressful, because he would make it a point to call out every single time I did something wrong with my piece, and was sparsely compliment. It was crazy.
Why are you in education if you won't? There's literally no point in being in education. That makes sure, I can say this as a educator, it makes your life so much harder to live like that. To not try to help your students and make it so that they feel like they can grow. You are actively putting in more work to be hateful and vindictive.
I mean, they always expect the best out of us, like always. out of every situation, work, outside of school, they always, like, the whole saying of, like, Black people have to work twice as hard. That's no joke. We always constantly have to work twice as hard to be even, like, seen, like, even a glance of what we're doing. And it's so heart-wrenching when you do all that work and, like, you're still not even noticed. But, like, yeah.
And then you add in being a woman or film or being LGBT, and it's like you have to work against so much more to not combat, but it feels like sometimes you have to combat those things, and it's just like, why? This is who I am. Why? Why is that a thing?
I mean, we should also definitely all acknowledge the fact that there are just some teachers that do just go into education to have an authoritative role over people and make them feel shitty. So, like, I definitely just want to say that just to remind everybody not to internalize that, because, like, there's nothing actively wrong with you, like, creating your artwork and, you know, putting yourself out there and putting yourself into all of it. That is just, I mean, there are so many insecurities and things that are passed along and, like, put into us that never actually even belong to us in the first place. And I feel like that is a prime example of that. Like, yes, those people are fucking miserable because that is literally the crux of their existence, just to make other people feel shitty because they feel so fucking shitty about themselves. So I really just want to drive that home. Like, really, y'all, your work is amazing. Your work is great. And I don't think you should ever just have to put up with that. Like, I hate that we all have had to put up with that in one way, shape, or form. Like, I really fucking do. And yeah, I really want to put that reminder out there.
Thank you.
Right.
In the chat, Freddie said the same thing with police.
Yeah, like as soon as you said that, they were upset, so they gonna make somebody else life miserable. Like, same.
I know, every time people get a slim of power, they always want to act fucking crazy about it. Like, at our school, they have, like, a grad critiques, and, like, the teachers are, like, bragging about how they make students cry. I was like, nigga, you're not supposed to just brag about making students cry in these critiques. These critiques are supposed to formally help them better their work and their life better as a creative person. By you formally targeting them in a critique and, like, actively trying to, like, make some kind of book, some emotion out of them, you're fucking crazy. You're fucking nuts. Like, no one, we're all sensitive people. That's why we're in the arts. We're all fucking sensitive. We don't need any of that bullshit about, like, if we, like, have a crap corner or a dent in our photo or a smudge in, like, some kind of fucking painting. We know it. We can all see it. Talk about something else.
It's like, why is this acceptable when if it was like elementary school or middle school, they would have been fired.
Immediately.
And then they say it's like, oh, because we're in the real world and, like, this is how people should be in the real world. Okay, I get it. But the way you're, like, delivering it, like, to me and to other students, that's fucking crazy.
And, like, I hate that statement of, like, in the real world. Are we not living in reality right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you take something that, like, I didn't get the memo? Like, are we not experiencing the same reality? And we're not. And that, in all actuality, I'm realizing it right now. We're not experiencing the same reality. And it's so fucked when people say that because they want to, I feel like when people say, well, in the real world, they're putting it out there to gaslight you.
Yeah, they are.
Say, what you're experiencing and your reaction right now is over proportion.
Right.
I'm trying to prepare you. I'm trying to help you.
Mm-hmm. And if this is the real world, then, like, why are you being complicit? You should be trying to do something so it's not like this. Like, don't perpetuate the same shitty behavior.
Thank you.
Right. And I shouldn't say that all professors like that at SAC. I've definitely had some really great professors in my life at SAC who really helped shape me and form me as the person I am today. But I do, but, like, it's so crazy because I always remember the negative more than the positive because definitely the positive really helped me and helped me push me to graduate, let alone survive.
On kind of like a different topic, I'm kind of curious. Does anybody remember the first Black artist that they found and, like, really connected with?
I don't remember my first like artist that I've seen. I wish I did, but I don't remember who it was because, like, I don't know. That would be nice to know, but I don't remember who that was. But the first one to, like, really stick with me was well, there's two actually. There's Kehinde Wiley and there's Alex Gardner. His name is, like, art poser on Instagram or something like that. And, like, I've known him for a minute. I haven't known him personally, but I've known his work for a minute. But their work has always like stuck with me because first of all, Kande Wiley's work, his work is like placing Black people in places, like in positions that we don't usually see in history, and it's like who we are as people. Like we're not dressed up, we're in regular clothing or what, you know. It's just very, it's like, it's just refreshing to see ourselves in places that we wouldn't see ourselves, literally just because we're Black. And that stuck with me because that's what I want to do. Like I want to show who we really are. I don't want to show like us as slaves. Like I don't want to stick with that. And I don't know. I just, those were like the first ones that really stuck with me because it was like, wow, like I'm actually seeing myself in what I want to make. And that just, it was really important to me.
And also, like, when I say artists too, I mean like poets, I mean magicians too, like anybody that's like influencing your work.
That is true. I don't even remember.
I would say for me, it was definitely it was Zanil. I can never pronounce her name, and I'm African. I'm such a disgrace. Her name is Zanil Mahuli. She's a South African photographer. She does a lot of self-portrait work, and she does work based on LGBTQ I+ community in South Africa, because being gay there is like a very much of a still crime, and she took pictures of this whole artwork about like a lot of the community that's there and that there still exists. I've never seen like because I'm dark skinned, and like I never saw like a dark skinned Black woman take those photos before, and I don't know if anybody seen her portraits, they're striking. And that like it like shook me to my core when I first saw it, like the Philadelphia Art Museum. I was like, oh my God, like I stopped my tracks, and then like I had to like go up close, like really take it in. But she was like one of those first me. And then the other person that also really inspired me to come to SAIC was Latoya Ruby Frazier. When I first saw her work and I first saw her family, because that's what I kind of want to start doing with my work when I was at SAIC, like I was like blown away. I was like, oh my God. And also like the fact that they are these Black women, and they are at these statures in their life of getting the Guggenheim, getting the MacArthur, getting all these awards and accolades. They also inspire me to reach that, and I know I could reach that because that they're there in those positions. So those are like the first two that really like stroke me as like a young artist out here.
I would say, so actually like growing up in Haiti, that's something that they did not push anybody to be. Like an artist was like the last thing you wanted to be, because like they basically, they didn't give any kind of value to art in Haiti. It's more like commercials, like something that you would sell to tourists. So nobody really ever talked about it as a career. And I think the first person that I actually looked up to was my cousin. She used to be an architect, and she did like a bunch of like bag designs and kind of just like handcrafted things on the side. And I was like, well, I could be like her, you know, have like a highly respected designer like position and then do something on the side. So that's what I originally wanted to be, like something like my cousin was doing. And then I went to the US and I started really like digging deeper into my art practice. And even like after getting into college, I didn't really realize that I had a lot of potential before I met someone else in the industry that was also Haitian. And I reached out to her back then and I asked if I could work under her. And I ended up working for her. And it was kind of crazy because like I only heard about her. And what she did is that she turned her college project into an actual company. So she was selling dolls that have natural hair, and their hair actually worked with like a lot of the product. And then she was having me do a lot of like the design for the packaging and like social media posts. And it was an unpaid internship. Honestly, like people say unpaid internships are the devil, but unfortunately for it being unpaid, I learned what I needed to. And she actually called me back later on and she was like, hey, can you be part of her team? And it was just amazing to be able to work underneath someone that I looked up to that was of the same ethnicity and same race as me. And I saw myself in her and I was like, I could become her. So that's like the first kind of like mentorship role as like that person that I ever got in my life. And I'm so thankful for it.
For me, it was Carrie Mae Weems and Gordon Parks.
Oh, period.
Like, Gordon Parks for me was mind-blowing because I was like, whoa, these are Black people in color in film. And I had never seen that before. and it was just like blowing my mind that this could happen. He actually was one of the reasons why I wanted to get into like film instead of like digital work. Carrie Mae Weems, her work was just like so intimate in her home, and it made me realize I can be intimate with my photography. And then also like Octavia Butler, her writing is just, it's the shit. That woman was a prophet, and she was taken too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah, I'm with you on Octavia Butler. Like, I love her books. Like, I'm so excited that like I can continue reading like different series. But yeah, she's fantastic. Um, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Lo. I had like a hard time with this question. Like honestly, like I don't really remember most of like the first Black artists. Like when I was younger, I feel like during Black History Month in school, it was always like poets or like musicians, but like never Black visual artists. But like music is a huge part of my artistic practice and just like me growing up as a person. Um, so like I would say Jill Scott was like the first person or like the first artist that like I fell in love with like musically. Just like it, I was like 5 or 6 at the time when her first album came out, but even so, I was like, whoa, this is like something completely other. And like, literally everyone in my family was listening to like R&B and soul and funk like throughout the house on like every single corner. It's like I was always surrounded by music. So music has like, especially Black music and like classical, like Black soul, funk, disco. That's like a big part in my upbringing. But Joshua Mays is my favorite illustrator. I love his style. He's from Colorado, but now he's based in the Bay Area. But like so brilliant. And Emory Douglas was the illustrator for the Black Panthers. Just yeah, super fantastic and like the most political illustrative work I've seen. So I was just like, wow, that's like super cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, what'd you say?
No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking of like the first. So for like in terms of illustration, I think the first for me was a book that my mom gave me by Debbie Allen. It was I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's a children's book called Dancing in the Wings.
Yes, I gave it to my niece for her for Christmas.
It's a beautiful book. The story and the illustrations. That was my first time like really seeing art and storytelling that really did burst me into like the possibility of creating stories. But I wasn't really shown like in a school sense any Black creatives until college, and it was Watermelon Woman by Cheryl Dunye, and I never realized it was possible to actually create films and like visual animations and stuff. I didn't think that was, my brain just did not conceptualize that like, oh, you can actually do that too. But until I saw Watermelon Woman, I was like, oh wow, you can actually do that. You know, that's actually possible. I mean, she's a Black lesbian woman, and I think it was also in a time of like, I didn't think that those kind of stories could be told. So I think that was like the first time where I felt like it was actually humanly possible to do that. I think, yeah, that really did leave a big impression on me in the first time in my life where it really did hit me. Who else? I'm not a music person, but I do like to incorporate audio with like my pieces. Stevie Wonder, like that was that jazz in general, but Stevie Wonder really left an impact on me in terms of incorporating musical elements and like instrumental elements into my art pieces. Yeah, and that was all over the board, but those particular people really did leave an impact on seeing art and like seeing like it's capable of people, you know, to create art. Yeah, that did leave a huge impact on me.
Can you put that in the chat too?
Yeah.
Brett, did you want to add anybody? It doesn't even have to be your first, just like people you were looking at.
I mean, I'm gonna be really cliche and say like Audre Lorde, Angela Davis. I mean, Yeah, just
Cliche.
yeah. But reading their work when I got into college and just really digesting it fully for the first time, it just really made so many things click, and it just made so much of the world make sense for me. Yeah. I mean, I really think that's the gist of what I can say about that. Yeah, it made reality a lot clearer. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing them up because they're so important too. Like we can't forget them. I feel like a lot of people cannot. This is gonna be so cliche too. People could not run if they didn't walk first. Like if they weren't doing what they were doing, we have to remember that like these things were affecting each other. Like the same stuff we were looking at, they were probably also looking at. So thank you for bringing that up.
Right, and if I can just interject for like a second, like I know I brought up a lot of contemporary work of like my favorite artists, but like a lot of like people outside of that, like I remember really falling in love with like Afrobeats. Like I grew up in an African household, so like a lot of African music was playing constantly. So that also really inspired me. And then like African textiles, like I grew up around that so much. I always dreamed as a little girl having like my own like African made like textile, like kente cloth, like dress. And I think I remember when I first got it made, I think I was like 8 or 10, and I was like in love with it, like from the get-go. And like I remember when I first read James Baldwin in my last year of high school, I read The Fire Next Time, and like the first page, I don't know if anybody's read that book, but I was bawling in class. I was bawling. Like I remember him talking about like us never being able to be seen and we was to fight for something. Like I was bawling. And like I know like after I think the teacher thought I was crazy or something because I was like literally like dry heaving in the back of the class because it just those words, it hit me so hard, and I was just couldn't comprehend like people that like that was the first time I knew like people out there like art like authors like that. Like I knew they were out there, I knew they got me, but like to actually read on a page, it was like mind-blowing to me. So like yeah, I think we draw art from a lot of different places, like not just from like contemporary work, like from writings, from music, from like a pattern. Like we draw inspiration from everything, and I think that's what I really appreciate.
Something that I forgot to add in mine. I'm very influenced by like scary movies too. Any of my friends who watch movies with me know that that's really the only movie that I ever watch. Very early on, I saw the movie Bones with Snoop Dogg, and that movie terrified me as a kid. But it was also like one of my first introductions to scary movies. And it's like I was recently watching a documentary where they talked about that, and it made me realize that's where my love of horror comes from, and that influences a lot of the things I do too. Being able to see so many different types of Black people in one film, and like that movie was really censored. Like I can go into the history of it, but I'm not. It was really censored by the people that distributed it. But just like thinking about how much Blackness they got in there, even though it was censored, was really formative for me too.
All right, like yeah. I also like but I'm going to institution like SAC and like any type of like institution, like there's always like those professors that like tell you a bunch of Black artists to look at that you already know about, but it's like from every single professor they tell you like the same person. Like I can like if I had like $20 for every someone told me about Carol Walker, girl, I would not be surviving on like PB&Js and like in SAC. Like every single time someone's like, look at Carol Walker, look at Carol Walker. I was like, of course I know who Carol Walker is. So there's always that. Like I always think about that when like we're talking about like Black artists, and like people always like tell me the same ones that you look at all the time, every single time.
Grace and I have like one more question that we really want to ask, but before we do that, is there any questions y'all have for each other? Did y'all want to just, or is there anything y'all want to just put out into the universe right now? And we can ask again too later too.
What are some current or future projects that you're really excited about?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm currently looking at so like a lot of my work I've been doing, all my stranger photography work is very like traditional, like you sit there and like I'm gonna point a camera at you and you're gonna sit still, because I do a lot of film work. I do a lot of medium format, 35mm, and large format. I'm in this mode right now where I'm just doing point and shoot. So it's just kind of like capturing moments and not instead of like setting up a whole moment within itself, I'm just trying to capture like small moments with my family and like trying to think about the composition of like how the photo looks. Because I notice when I don't think so much, the photo actually turns out great. Because I did like a whole BFA show about that. And I actually like the photos that I put on the wall. Because first I hated them, but I was like, oh, actually they're not that bad. I'm also looking at like the like old photos and like a photo album to add to like the current ones I have with my family in comparison, because my mom gave me her whole collection of when she was my age actually, of when she was in like when she was in America. And she like my mom and I look just alike. If you look at old photos, it's crazy. So I'm currently working with those with archives like that and my current work together and trying to put them together, because I'm really interested in like ancestral generational aspects in like photography and showing like growth in like age. And yeah, I'm always thinking ways how to add that into my work.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
I think I'll go next. So I feel like for me, the projects that I'm most excited about are actually my illustration projects, because like I've kind of touched up on this before, but I feel like I'm just now really discovering like what my practice is. And I feel like one of the things that I'm currently trying to address in my work is just representation of Black people. Because it dawned upon me one day. I was like, wow, why am I just drawing white people? Like throughout high school, middle school, like every time I was like drawing characters, they were always like white, had blue eyes or something. And even like I was like consuming a lot of like manga and stuff. It was like there's diversity, like all the characters are white. And I was at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make it a point to make all of my characters, or at least like 90% of them, be POC. And that's something that I'm actively trying to like include into my work. So I'm trying to like do small projects where like Black people are actually at the front of like the picture, like the illustration. So I'm actively trying to put out more work where like different kind of Black people are being represented.
I love it.
I had that same like reconciling with myself when I started college. Like all my models my freshman year, that first semester, were my white friends. So like going to college was a journey of me realizing that I can be important, that I am important, that I'm valid, and that I'm excellent. So my work took that turn. Towards the end of college, I kind of stepped away from making my own artwork and I was focusing on art education. But I've started to get back into my photography. I was also like working with blending my witchcraft with my art practice in photography and making things. So right now I am still trying to define those things for myself, but I'm also still trying to create what I'm doing while I'm doing it. So it's like very messy right now, but I'm very excited about the mess, but it's also hard to like put language to it.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm actually super excited about the series that I entered for the show. This Negro Currency series that I started. It's I don't know. It's like a new iteration of a project that I started like back in SAIC. But I'm excited with this evolutionary state, and I don't know. I'm excited to just see where it goes. It's also like the first bit of like political Black art that I've made in a while. So yeah, that's also like fun and exciting.
Dope.
Well, I've kind of got a lot on my hands right now, to be completely honest. Well, like Grace mentioned, I have the magazine. That's like something that like I'm continuously working on, because that's something that I want to make into my own business. Because I feel very strongly about the fact that we need that representation. Because we may have magazines that like have Black people in them, like Essence and whatever, but like they're always celebrities. And I wanted to make, the whole idea of my magazines is to make a space where Black people are represented, how we are, like the I don't want to say everyday Black person, because everyday Black person can be so many different definitions. And that's actually the point. Like I want every representation of a Black person to be within this magazine. I focus a lot on streetwear. And then I have like, because streetwear came from us. And then I have like things like memories and just there's a wide range of like representation. I just want everything in one spot. And I want that to become big enough to be an outlet for other Black artists to have their voice, to be seen where they aren't usually seen. So that's a lot of work because I have to go through marketing, I have to go through graphic design, I have to go through, I mean, it's a photo-based magazine, so I'm continuously doing that. I have a couple of people that are like on my side helping me, which I mean, like they're gonna be like supportive, but like I have made it myself, and I'm working on the second edition right now, which is really hard to do from home because we got sent home early because of this Rona. But I am like planning things to like start back up as soon as I get back on campus. But it's stressful, but I'm like super happy about it because I feel like I can get somewhere with it. Like I really want it to be something big. Like yeah, it's just a lot of work. It's a lot to explain, but that's basically what I've got going on.
Very excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys want to tell a little bit about your work and what you guys working on?
Turn it around.
You don't have to. No, you don't have to. I was just like,
It doesn't matter.
I want to find out what about you guys.
Well, I actually took a break from art for a while. I had a gallery exhibition earlier in the year in Missouri, and it was a very troubling experience to say the least. And it kind of did put me. It put me in a depressive state. I was depressed for a while after, and I stopped doing art for a long time. Predominantly white gallery, all white gallery. And that experience really left me lost. So this exhibition actually, Jayla told me about it and I applied for it, and it really has helped me kind of get back on the path of creating. So now that, I've, grateful enough to be a part of this group with y'all, I have kind of now reacclimated myself to creating again. And what does that mean to do it for myself and not to be so overly concerned about how everyone else is perceiving it, especially outside of whiteness. So it's pretty open too. It's open, it's messy. I'm experimenting, trying to get back into what it means to tell stories and to, be visual and what that means to me. So it's going to be I like what you said earlier, Freddie, an evolutionary process. So it's very open. It's going to be very freeing. So, yeah.
Awesome.
There are two main projects that I keep thinking back to, but haven't really had the time to fully totally invest in. But there's one project that I really want to do that is going to be a mix of painting, embroidery, and poetry that centers around healing and invisible scars and things of that nature, and kind of the messy experience that comes with certain emotions and healing and harm, and the harm that, not only the harm that others inflict upon us, but the harm we inflict upon ourselves. And then the other project is going to be, honestly, I have no idea how many mediums it's going to span across, but I really want to think about, it kind of goes hand in hand with healing, but it really focuses more on past lives, but within a lived life. How we've gone through so many different versions of ourselves that are still ultimately us, but there are just so many representations of us that don't really exist for ourselves anymore, past versions of ourselves that we just don't even either recognize or really identify with, or can't believe that we used to be. And the things that come with that, the people and the experiences that are kind of essentially dead to us, and that still kind of exist in the shadow of who you are, but not really so much of an active presence. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. It does. That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for bringing up that question. That was an excellent question.
Of course.
Yeah. Also, if I can just plug some stuff real quick.
Yeah.
I'll be DJing at a festival in August, early August, I think, August 7th, called The Multiverse is Lit. And I also have a once monthly DJ show, The Groove Allegiance, at Lower Grand, which is a local Oakland-based radio station. So tune in sometimes if y'all want grooves.
Yes, buddy.
And after we're done with this, if everybody wants to like plug anything, we will be featuring you guys on the Instagram page leading up to us posting this video on YouTube. So if y'all want to plug stuff, let us know. We're gonna reach out anyway, but let us know and we'll plug it for y'all. I'm so excited to hear what everybody is doing. This is great. Okay, Grace. The last question that we really wanted to ask kind of also leads into that question we just had. If you had to pick one of your images of your work, one of your pieces, whether it's sound, poetry, whatever, to define you, can you think about that piece and like kind of share what that piece is and what it means to you for us? You can take that.
Yeah, I was wondering real quick. I don't know if y'all can give us access maybe to like share our screens so we could like show the work, or like if y'all have pictures.
Yeah. Jayla, you want to give that access?
Yep. Let me figure out how to do it to everybody.
You can go to the share, and then like you'll have like a button that says share. Every like multiple participants can share. You see that?
Nope.
Okay. So wait, go to share screen on the bottom of the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you could, and then like, there's like an arrow, and then go.
Oh,
and
I see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and don't feel, if you don't have anything ready, that's fine. If you have something ready, that's cool. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Well, I already had this, I guess I can go first because I already had this conversation with Grace on live. So I kind of have one picked. I have it on my desktop, actually. So I'll share it. But it's basically a photo that I worked on for, oh, well, there's my iTunes. But there's that. It's kind of wonky because Mac is just weird, but you get the point. Anyway, it was for a final that I was doing last semester, and it's actually, I chose it in the live because we've all had this discussion that Black women are probably the most disrespected, period.
Yeah.
And because of that, from birth, you are literally taught not to love yourself in one way or another. If it's not directly said, it's taught. And I hadn't realized that for years. And I hadn't ever been comfortable with myself, like before I got to college, like just to be free and do what I wanted to do. And I still had those thoughts to like push myself back from doing what I love to do. And so when I was doing this, when I was creating this project, I had started out with just being like, yo, I just want to be free and do what I want to do, but I want to create this one specific thing. And I didn't realize that I was so stuck and like making something that I thought that other people would like. And I didn't realize that it really wasn't me. Like I thought it was me, but it really wasn't. And so this photo ended up being me just in a fed up spot. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm sick of giving myself limits. Like, I'm just going to take photos. Like, this is for me. Like, this is literally my work. This is about me as a Black woman. I'm going to do what I want to do. So I said, you know what? I'm going to set up my camera in just places that I love that mean something to me. And I'm going to make something and we're going to see what comes out of it. So it's a whole series. Actually, this is one of the pictures that were in the show. So you probably saw it already. But this was a photo that was in the show. I picked this one because, you know, fashion is like a huge thing for me. Like, I really love it. And that's something that like defines who I am. Like, a lot of people say fashion is something that like, you know, shows who they are as a person. And I just thought this photo showed me as free as I possibly could have been. Like, I didn't care what I was wearing. I didn't care how my hair looked. I didn't care how the setup was besides the fabric that I put up. And like, that was really it. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to make what I make. And that's that. And I feel like that's what defines my work, because I am a Black woman. I am proud of who I am. And like that, I'm going to continue to create work that defines who I am. Even if it's of somebody else, like, it's still me. And I realized that like I should be comfortable with myself and love myself and my work no matter what. So that's why I chose this one when I was talking to Grace. That was long, but yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Lo.
Yeah. Let me stop sharing, please.
Yeah, I take full. You gotta. Yeah, there you go. Who wants to go next?
Once again, you don't have to share the image if you don't want to.
Yeah.
My desktop is too messy. I know I'm not gonna find it.
I could, if you want me to. I could go.
I can go if
Yeah, go ahead,
that's
Freddie.
okay. Yeah, I have something up. So let me share my screen real quick. Okay. Yeah, so this was a piece I did back in 2014. But I really like it because it's combining nature, it's combining like Black people as the focus, it's like also combining like my typical style, like when I do like narrative based like or mythology based illustration, it's kind of something that resembles this. It's combining animals, so it's like I don't know, it's kind of like combining all the different parts. It's also related to music. Like Erykah Badu's Honey was like kind of the inspiration for this. So yeah, it's like kind of a lot of different things that's coming together that yeah, kind of resemble me. So yeah. And I also got a tattoo, like her tattoo on my arm. She got into an exhibition that I was like super excited about, and that was like one of the first times I felt super validated as an artist and like kind of getting to like where I want to be. So I was like, I want to commemorate this and know that like no matter what, like this happened and I'm a successful artist and like that's always going to be with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Freddie, I'm gonna message you an artist. I can't think of the name right now, but I will let you know because that artwork reminds me so much of what you're talking about. If I can remember, I will let you know. And the same for anybody who feels like I love critique, so
I can go next.
yeah.
Ooh, there's a lot of spray on my. Okay, just a second. Okay.
Jesus, Tisha.
Grace, stop judging me.
Grace, you've seen that. You can't judge that.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm perfect.
Okay. So I actually have a piece that I've been working on recently, and honestly, like it's one of my favorites, and I feel like this is where I want my art to go in the future. And it's just like very, I guess it was kind of cathartic for me to do this because it didn't serve any kind of purpose. It was just like an illustration that I did just because I wanted to. And also it's kind of like the first time I ever put myself in my illustrations because usually I feel like it needs to have like a point, a purpose, a goal, but like this is something that I just did on a whim, and I feel like it's like the beginning of like a lot more pieces. Let me try to see if I can find the correct version of this. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so it's just like basically a document of me in my everyday life.
Oh, I love it so much.
I love it.
Agreed. Especially like during quarantine right now, like this is a huge mood.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's just the one with the hood and it's scrunched up to the face. I relate to that so much because that's my daily at 2 a.m.
That was me this morning. Come on.
Exactly.
That was Grace before we started the call. Grace and I were talking. That was Grace.
Literally, I was in a big hood and I was just like not having it and like I love that so much.
That's so cute.
Tish, I love you. You're living life on the edge. It was at 18%, now it's at 17%.
Wait, what? Oh! Damn, you put on blast.
Oh, yeah, you talking about me put on her blast. Damn, you put her on blast.
It's been
a long day.
Oh my god. So funny. I can.
You want to go, Grace?
Yeah, I can go. Tisha, stop sharing your screen. There you
Wait,
go.
I'm trying to figure this out. Okay.
I did it already. Okay.
Did it start?
Get out.
Sorry. This is how we usually talk to each other, y'all. All right. So this is my screen. Here we go. Oh, it's not the photo. So I picked this photo my mom that I took I think 2-3 years ago. It kind of set like the whole understanding of like what I'm gonna do in my work in the future. But what I'm really like into, and when it comes to like immigrant families, it's about legacy. Like that's the whole thing with like in people who immigrated into this country and bring up children into this like in this country is like I want you to have the better life than I had when I was growing up. I want to give you all that I can give you because I could not get those things. And that's like, I think my mom represents that perfectly because she always tells me, like, Grace, I wanted, like, basically the saying, like, I had to run so you can walk. And then my sisters can say that, my brothers can say that for like me as like the youngest child in my family, like I had to run so you could walk. And literally, like, they always say, like, Grace, I don't want you to suffer. Like, I always say, like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this. Like, well, Grace, so, like, those are not options for you because I don't want you to like, end up like how I ended up. So I always think about with photography and African and Black, it's just about the legacy and about continuing it. And like what my mom is like the matriarch of this family, and like all that she is like putting all the work in and putting all like the time in to like help me survive, help my siblings survive, and help this family grow on their own 2 feet. So like she hates this photo because she always wants to look pretty in photos. But I got her in the morning where she like kind of like that's the mom that I know. Like the mom that like I show and like the full like dress and like the thing and the makeup, it's like how she wants to present herself. But like the person that I know is this one right here. Like she is like I see her every day. And like I tell you, this woman will not sit down. She does not sit down. She constantly works all the time. So yeah, if I could pick, this is the image I chose.
I love that.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to go next, or I can go next?
I can go next. Here, let's hope I don't. Okay, let's go there. Nope, let's not go there. No.
Technology is fucked.
Wait, if you guys know anything about like desktops, use Stacks. Like messy desktop, Stacks will clean up all your shit. It will hide all of your impurities.
Only you would know that.
Lumps together all the files, like all screenshots are one.
So when you guys see my screen, y'all are gonna judge me so hard just preparing for it.
And I have the same. I just keep it together. All my shit is together.
Just read yourself, Tisha. I just love how you keep constantly just reading yourself.
Where is it? My computer is like it's running really slow right now. So.
Oh, but it's so organized. Holy fuck.
Ooh, you don't even need to use Stacks. Your desktop is clean.
That's just it. Like on the daily.
No, I'm very anal about it. I try to.
That's
delete.
Jade's Virgo energy.
Don't do this. So this is a piece I did. How do I fix this? Okay, there we go. This is a piece that actually, no, I'm gonna put it back.
I don't think it's really.
Okay, this is a piece that I did with the gallery. I really like it because it focused on like my time in Colombia and like the bonding that I had with like the found family that I had in Colombia, and what it meant to kind of survive in a predominantly white space, and what it meant to, be neurodivergent and really kind of like go within myself and finding like my heritage and really finding bonding through that as well as, I'm a practitioner. So kind of like combining some elements of fruit work within my pieces. So this was one that I really liked because it combined the people that I really leaned on while in Colombia and trying to kind of grapple with the whole culture shock and like a lot of the traumatic experiences that happened within, being in Colombia and being in college. So I really want to play around with collage in the future again. I played around with that and like paper making and stuff with this. So yeah, I had a really great time making this one.
You know who Wangechi Mutu is?
No, I don't.
Yes, I love Wangechi Mutu.
Hands down. This reminds me of her work.
Yeah.
I will drop her name in the chat. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say
She's yeah, go ahead, Freddie.
Sorry,
Oh no! Oh, sorry. Go. Oh, okay. Yeah, you should also definitely watch her short film. Oh, I forget the name of it now. It's like something about eating the world or something like that. But yeah, Wangechi Mutu is like fantastic. Definitely check her out.
Like down.
Just the fact that you did this by hand is crazy to me because the first thing I thought was Photoshop. And like it's crazy to me that people still are able to like have that kind of craft and like put together things by hand. It's beautiful.
And I just want to say, Jay's been like this their like entire time that I've known them. I distinctly remember a piece in high school with cardboard in the houses.
Oh my God, yeah, the favelas.
Your attention to detail has always been so spot on. Like, your work with your hands is amazing.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Also take a look at also take a look at McLean. I can never pronounce her name. Thomas. They also do a lot of collage work. They also do a lot of black body. I will also drop the name in the chat. I will drop a bunch of names in the chat for everybody to look at.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't been in critique in so long, so this is very exciting. I'm actually thriving off this.
Oh, well. Turn off screen share. It's been amazing seeing y'all's work. I'm thank y'all for putting your Instagrams on, because I'm definitely gonna be not like, okay, stalking's a strong word, but I'm gonna be a strong follower.
I love it for sure.
Agreed.
I'm
Yeah,
here
the
for
fact
y'all.
is here.
I do periodical content like once a month.
Britt, did you want to talk about your defining piece, or do you want me to go? What do you want to do?
Well, I don't even know if I have a defining piece. I'm gonna go grab the like sample piece that I have from one of the series that I was talking about. So show yours while I go run and grab that real fast.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I think I do. Cool.
I need y'all to prepare yourself for a really messy screen. Okay.
I'm telling you, Jayla, stacks is the way to go.
Everything
It's so stupid.
Everything is. Does it take a while to get there? Yes, it does.
I just organized mine, so I don't blame you.
Okay,
And
so
like I just got a new laptop, and that's the only reason why shit is clean right now.
this piece is right here. Was a piece I created my freshman year, my last semester. Not my last semester, the end of freshman year. It is the second self-portrait I ever took. This piece was very powerful for me. One, because I was listening to Lemonade. But I never really wanted to censor myself in anything. I was looking at all of these old paintings and wanting to create work like that. I always found it funny. I'm a photographer, but I always look at paintings for inspiration. And I just I had this strong desire to see myself in these like paintings in these scenarios. So in my dorm room, I set up this entire area. I was going through a lot when I was taking this picture. I had a roommate that was starting to hurt me. I was going through a lot of like mental health issues, and I carved out this time in that day to make this space my own. I got these props by going on a walk, and I picked some flowers that were always beautiful to me, and I just set this up, and it was the moment where I was like, I am an artist. What I do is important. Me being seen is important. What I'm going through is important. So this is like really one of those defining pieces. I don't think I've taken a photo like this at all, and I think now I need to revisit this topic. But yeah, this was like very powerful for me in my art career.
Well, I always say to you, I said you should always, all of J-Lo's work, primarily her self-portraiture work, because there's always like a double or always like a person of like another like being in it, is like always like God, Frida Kahlo. I always tell you to look at Frida Kahlo, because straight up it always reminds me of her work.
Thank you. High praise.
So when I got the thing, but this is from the one that I was talking about as far as like healing and the cross between poetry and embroidery and painting. Basically, I'm going to take like a lot of different. Sorry, is that good light? Yeah, there we go. Oh, sorry, baby. No, good. But basically, I'm going to take a lot of different tools and knives and different stuff like that, and cut into different types of canvas. I'm going to make some handmade paper and cut into that as well. And sometimes I will just leave the cuts unstitched up, kind of to represent, or like half stitched to represent the process of healing, and how, a lot of people that don't do embroidery can take a fucking long time. Like, it can take a lot of time, especially depending on what kind of stitch you're going for, or like what, stitching and then like stitching over it again. and just whatever you're really like looking to get out of it, it can take a while. And I mean, it's the same with healing. Healing is such a process. It's never linear, like, or at least almost never in my experience. And it can be very messy. And that's basically what I wanted to get at. Just a lot of different methods for applying the paint, and even probably painting over certain stitches and different things like that. But yeah, I really want to do art therapy. I have wanted to do therapy since I was in 6th grade. And I really stuck with it. And when I got into college, I added on the element of doing art therapy because I just know it's so important for people to have that outlet that is not just centered around talk therapy. Because, I mean, we don't always have the vocabulary, we don't always have the ability to be able to fully discuss our traumas and discuss our experiences and, you know, our own emotions. And so I always wanted to have that element available for people to be able to just explore those different means of like expressing yourself and like having that creative outlet. And I mean, I really, really love Fiverr's work, partly because I never was really exposed to it before college, and I never really thought about art in the space of doing fibers, in the space of paper making, in the space of embroidery, in the space of working with textiles and dyeing fabrics and things of that nature. And so I really just want to make sure that people within our communities have access to those so they can understand all the different possibilities that are available for them.
That's amazing. Do you know Yinka Shinabare?
No.
She took a lot of the work. They do a lot of textiles work. They take a lot of like so like the African fabric is like a Dutch made fabric, so he like tries to incorporate like colonialism with that fabric with two touchy subjects because it is typically known as an African fabric, and he does a lot of like textiles. And then Simone Leigh, she also does a lot of fiber work as well, such a sculpture. I put them on chat for you to take a look at.
Please do.
I love it.
Thank
I
you.
love the show.
PK coming through with the names.
For real.
I love art. Okay. If I could have like art like on my like I fucking love art. And I love seeing and also love seeing talented Black artists. So
Your
this is
students
just
are already right.
they're not. I took a teaching job recently, y'all. So like they're not ready for me.
They really aren't. They about to be showered in greatness. I just want to thank everybody once again for being here, for being present in this conversation. This is really important that we're having these types of conversations, and that even when we end this call, we continue this conversation. We stay connected if that's something that you want. Grace, I don't want to volunteer you, but like, please reach out to the artist movement if you want to stay connected. Because I think for me, this has been like a very good experience, and like we talked about trauma, but we're also talking about our community, and that's something that I want to keep. So if you want to keep doing this, please reach out. Thank you for being here. Grace, do you want to say anything?
Wait, just a second. We can save the chat also. There's a feature where you can save the chat instead of taking screenshots, and I've just remembered that.
Oop, did you hear me taking screenshots of the chat?
I did. I was
Yeah, there's a file save button. You can save it on your desktop and save it on Google Drive.
I wish I knew that.
I never.
I'm over here taking screenshots, hoping that nobody hears it.
Because I did it too.
I was going to wait until we were done, and I was going to watch the video again and be like, okay, this person.
Yeah, I did it, and I was like, wait, do they think I'm taking a screenshot of them? I was like, I can't.
Also, there's this book that another artist who's also Black told me to read. It's Toni Morrison, Playing in the Dark. It's this really good book. He said like that really changed like his whole practice because it talks about like being an artist, a Black artist in the contemporary world. I will also drop that name in the chat.
And also one more thing before people start to leave, if you're going to leave, can everybody just go around real quick and say their handles or websites for everybody? You can find me at the Art Witch on Instagram. Whoever wants to go next can go.
Low. It's YELL.L0. There you go.
And you also have a YouTube channel, Lo, too, right?
Oh yeah, I haven't posted on it in a minute, but it's also yellow, but it just doesn't have a dot. So
You can find me at Grace Tenet, TENNEH. That's my artist Instagram, or my personal one is GK2 Cray Cray. I made that when I was 12. Please forgive me. And then my website is Grace Tenet Chroma.
Griffin never said your handle out loud before.
Shut up. I know. I made it when I was 12, and now I'm just kind of stuck.
Okay, I love you.
I know.
My illustration handle is potato, and it's spelled
Hello.
DATAYTOH, and then my design one is Laugus.design. So it's LAUGUS.design. Yeah.
If you know Tish, you know that Tish is really just a bunch of potatoes in one sack.
It's so funny because my sister asked about Tisha's design because she wanted to hire her for freelance, and she said, "How do you pronounce her Instagram handle?" I was like, "It's potato," and then she was like, "Oh," and it was just dead silence.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go. So I have a art Instagram. It's at doodle_ddome. Yes, I put it in the message in the chat too, but I'm currently, if someone has advice on making art websites, tell me, because
please, because I need to make one.
Oh.
Saying no, just
can I just have another Zoom? Then that's what it sounds like.
We can do another Zoom, do a critique of like websites. I'm always here for it. But Tisha is also a great person because she kind of organized my life. Also, I can offer I've also offer one advice: buy your handle.
Okay.
Grace, can you put that in the chat? The website you told me.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
I wish you would have told me because I paid way too much for my handle.
Oh,
For my domain name.
At B Savage Baby. That's like my personal Instagram. Just look there for the future for it, you know?
I love it.
Thank you.
Are y'all gonna plug We Are Crafting?
Oh yeah. So also at We Are Crafting Love, we have a shop together. We've been doing it for like 3 years now? A little over 3 years now. Yep. Yeah. So we make candles and original artwork,
prints, designs,
jewelry, custom stuff. So yeah.
This one makes ass patches. So if you want to customize ass patch.
I love my ass patches. They're super great. It always brings a smile to people's face. So definitely get one if you want to see some ass like every day.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is that a candle or a patch?
One of their candles.
Oh yeah. Once y'all said candles, I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna buy one. And then when I heard ass patch, I was like, okay, my homie in Chicago is gonna get one of those. That's hilarious. I love that.
I like nice jean jacket. I would love an ass patch.
Yes. And I do I don't know, I get really fun with it. So just tell me what you're looking for. We can work it out. It'll be great. It'll be really great. We do have a lot of scents too. So whatever you're looking for scent wise, I got you.
Right on.
Also you guys that talked about, sorry Freddie.
Oh no, you're good.
Helping with websites, I'm definitely down. Just send me a message on Instagram. I'll catch up.
Yeah, we can do one of these again. I am for sure. I love critiques. As you can tell, I love talking about art. I can talk about art all day.
Do his handles.
Oh, okay, yeah. But also, Grace, yeah, definitely down to hop on a group critique or anything like that. I love that shit, and I miss it. My personal Instagram is Freddie IE _331. My artist Instagram is Chrome Art CROME art _331. You can. Oh, my SoundCloud is No Silence. Yeah, I think that's the main things.
Thank you guys for all being here. I'm gonna stop recording now.